Soon, a soldier rushed in and reported, "Report, a few minutes again, Dongfang advisor had left through a helicopter. As for where he went, we don't know yet." Soon, a soldier rushed in and reported, "Report, a few minutes again, Dongfang advisor had left through a helicopter. As for where he went, we don't know yet." What? Qian Longtou's face was pale. He didn't expect that Dongfang she actually dared to run away. He planned more than 90% of the tactics for Nanqing, and he knew everything about Nanqing. This Dongfang she was almost like the second-in-hand of Nanqing, but he actually ran away. Qian Longtou's face kept changing, but he eventually calmed down. He knew Dongfang she's wisdom all too well. If he could betray him and run away, it meant that Dongfang she no longer had any hopes for him. But he still had an army of 2,000, was that not enough for a mere Yimo? However, Qian Longtou was still sane. He immediately thought that Dongfang she's tactics rarely failed. Even his viewpoints were mostly correct. Did he have to leave? Dongfang she could run, but where could he go? What place was safer that Cna for him? Suddenly, he felt his control wasn't strong enough. There were too many loopholes in the chain of command. If one needed to contact him before using the helicopter, then Dongfang she wouldn't be able to run away as well. Moreover, he found that a few of his trusted men didn't need to be reported to come in. This was also a loophole. Dongfang she was his advisor. There was no way he didn't know these loopholes, but he never reminded him. This meant that he was prepared to run a long time ago. "Good one, Dongfang shi, even if I look through the entire world, I will capture you back," Qian Longtou said between clenched teeth as he smacked on the table. "No, I want to see how many heads and hands this Yi Mo has that forced even Dongfang shi to betray me. Someone investigate the contents of that call. I will capture this Yi Mo. I'll let him know that I, Qian Baihe, hasn't aged yet." Qian Longtou didn't feel the pain in his hand at all and yelled once again. "No need, I'm here already," Yi Mo's plain voice sounded in the meeting room. Qian Longtou's voice came to a sudden stop. He looked at the door in astonishment. He had multiple levels of guards, so how did Yi Mo reach him without any sound? Soon, he saw Lang Ji and his face became green again. "Lang Ji, you heartless animal, you dare to betray me too. I will kill you." Qian Longtou was going to reach for his gun, but in his astonishment, he found that his wrists could no longer move. A bloody red color was spreading across it, yet he didn't even feel pain. Metal nail? The metal nail of the legends. Lang Ji didn't say anything. Qian Longtou saw his wrist was shot by a metal nail and his heart went cold. He knew he was gone today, but he didn't think Yi Mo would be this strong. He could come in front of him without him noticing at all. This was too absurd. Even with Lang Ji's help, Lang Ji couldn't bring a stranger into his territory. Was his invisibility real? Qian Longtou had calmed down and he looked slowly at Lang Ji and then Wu Qiong. He knew the only chance he had at living was for Wu Qiong to hold Yi Mo there, or perhaps get Lang Ji to turn sides again. A teen in his 20s, however, came running in and didn't even care about Qian Longtou because he was Lang Ji's close man, someone who Lang Ji brought into Nanqing after he joined. He gave a letter to Lang Ji, saying, "Before advisor Dongfang left, he told me to give this to you, saying it can save your life." Lang Ji immediately opened the letter and there was just one line of words: "When you were surrounded and attacked at Macau those years ago, it was planned by Qian Longtou." Lang Ji's face immediately changed. He didn't think that Qian Longtou, whom he had been so loyal for all this time, would use this type of means. Funny how he still worked with his life for more than a decade. He was worse than a pig. No wonder every time he said he wanted to annihilate his adversary, Qian Longtou would just say that the time wasn't ready yet. So this was it. No wonder when he was running away, he just happened to meet Qian Longtou at Macau. This was no coincidence. Qian Longtou liked to gamble, but he would never go to Macau to gamble. When he first started working for Qian Longtou, Nanqing wasn't as big as it was now. It could be said that there was a major share of work from him in Nanqing. It could be imagined that Qian Longtou heard about his name. Although Lang Ji offended someone strong and ran to Macau, he still used means to get Lang Ji to work for him. Lang Ji couldn't think why Qian Longtou's advisor would give him this hint, and he didn't have the time to think. He just scrunched up the paper and threw it at Qian Longtu. Qian Bai her, no wonder you're always delaying my revenge. It was done by yourself. F*ck, and I still say that I am indebted to you. I'm going to kill you myself today. Yimo didn't look at the letter, but he could see from Lang Ji's infuriated expression that Qian Longtu seemed to have tricked him. He was thinking if he should kill Lang Ji after he was finished with his things, but now, it seemed that it was no hurry. Perhaps there was more use for Lang Ji. Seeing Lang Ji charge towards Qian Longtu, Li Sandao immediately stopped Lang Ji. Lang Ji, you're injured now, you're no match for me, I don't want to attack my brother. Brother, F*ck off. Qian Longtu stabbed me in the back in order to get me to work for him, and I really thought he coincidentally saved me. Li San, are you also tricked by this bastard like me? Lang Ji was furious. Li Sandao shook his head, however. The chairman did indeed save my life. I won't let you attack. Li Sandao was very clear how Qian Longtu was like to him. When he was begging on the streets, if Qian Longtu didn't take him away, he would have starved to death. He swore he would serve the chairman his entire life. However, his character was a bit clumsy, and there were many things he couldn't do. Although he was Qian Longtu's most trusted man, he could only help lead Qian Longtu's army. However, he didn't need to have the wisdom of Dongfang Shi to lead a hired army. Yimo watched as Lang Ji and Li Sandao started fighting. They were actually evenly matched. It seemed that this Li Sandao was not bad. Wu Qiong's eyes turned. He wouldn't be loyal to Qian Longtu, but he still needed to test Yimo. Although he felt he was no match for Xian Daoist, but he felt he wasn't far off. After all, he was only 30 or so, meanwhile this Yimo seemed younger than him. He didn't believe everyone had the same fortune as him. When he was 10, he met a master at Miaojiang. He had been practicing martial arts for 26 years now, and was working very hard. He wouldn't be distracted due to other things. He loved women, but for martial arts, he could even refrain from sleeping with one for 3 years. He didn't believe that Yimo, a mere 20 years old, could be a match for him. I'm Wu Qiong, although I know you have some powerful weapons or artifacts, but I still want to try if you're really as strong as they say. Wu Qiong smiled faintly and said. But before he finished, his leg had kicked out. All of Wu Qiong's power was on his legs, but his killing move wasn't on his leg. No one knew his killing move because those who knew were already dead. Although he just fought with Xian Daoist for a few rounds, it was just a test battle, so he never used his killing move. The wind brought by his legs had a rhythm. Other than Yimo, no one could even feel it, but as soon as Wu Qiong attacked, Yimo knew he was much stronger than Lang Ji. For someone like Wu Qiong, his invisibility was useless because he was only stage 3 Kai gathering. If he went invisible and used his Kai, then Wu Qiong would feel it. However, invisibility without any Kai and killing intent had no attacking effect. Moreover, Yimo wanted to test how strong the masters here were, so he also kicked out. Seeing Yimo actually kick to his leg, Wu Qiong surged with excitement. Even when Xiao Daoist was fighting him, he didn't dare to use his leg to clash with his. This Yimo was so naive, he would certainly break his leg. Bang! 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 After a few clashing sounds, Yimo just felt his leg bones were a bit painful, but he stood where he was without moving. This was the first time he saw a normal martial artist train his leg to such a degree. Wu Qiong took a few steps back. Although his legs didn't break, but that bone-wrenching pain almost made him yell out. He looked at Yimo in shock. It was just a quick clash, but he already kicked more than 20 times. However, Yimo didn't even move and just used his legs to kick him away. He never would have thought that his legs would be kicked to pain by someone else. He already spent more than 20 years training his leg. Even if Yimo was training in his mother's womb, he couldn't train his leg to be stronger than his. As Yimo mobilized his Kai, the pain disappeared. Wu Qiong's leg was this strong. This was greatly out of Yimo's expectation, but Yimo didn't want to waste time. He flung out a metal nail casually. Clink. Almost at the same time Yimo shot out the nail, a white light flashed at Wu Qiong's sleeve, and the nail was blocked. However, Wu Qiong stumbled back a few steps and spat out blood. Yimo was shocked. It was the first time his metal nails were blocked. Wu Qiong was more shocked. When he was kicked away by Yi Mo, he kept his attention on whether Yi Mo would shoot out the nail. He had already seen it once when Yi Mo attacked Chen Longtu. Wu Qiong was more shocked. When he was kicked away by Yi Mo, he kept his attention on whether Yi Mo would shoot out the nail. He had already seen it once when Yi Mo attacked Chen Longtu. Even if he focused all of his attention, that metal nail still almost hit him. If he didn't have that killing move, then he would perhaps be dead. He didn't think his killing move was just to block one nail from him. He didn't even have time to attack Yi Mo. This Yi Mo was absurdly strong, so much stronger than he expected. Although he hadn't even used 10% of his leg power, but he knew he was no match for Yi Mo. If things continued like this, death would be the only thing that awaited him. Leave, he had to leave now. Yi Mo saw that his metal nail was actually blocked by Wu Qiong and felt surprised. Although it wasn't as fast as a bullet, but it wasn't too far off. However, it was still blocked by Wu Qiong. Suddenly, the white light from Wu Qiong's sleeve flashed once again. The white light split into more than 10 rays which converged towards Yi Mo. Even Yi Mo felt a little threatened. Although Wu Qiong's white light was very fast, it had nowhere to hide under Yi Mo's spirit sense. It was a small knife. He didn't think the knife could split into so many white blades. It seemed the knife was specifically made. Perhaps this was his killing move. Yi Mo raised both his hands as his kai surged. These white blades were all covered by his kai in front of him. Bang! At the same time, Wu Qiong had ran to the window place. He didn't even have the time to kick and just rammed with his head. Yi Mo sneered, and the white light in his hands were thrown back to Wu Qiong. Wu Qiong coughed but soon disappeared. However, Yi Mo wasn't worried. He knew that the blades he threw back had struck Wu Qiong's leg in a few places. No matter how strong Wu Qiong's leg was, the blades would still break his tendons. Although Wu Qiong had escaped outside of the range of his spirit sense, Yi Mo didn't care. The blades that Yi Mo shot back not only severed Wu Qiong's leg tendons, but they would also gradually dissipate the life force on his legs. In other words, although Wu Qiong escaped, his legs would be disabled. For someone who had all his power on his legs, Yi Mo couldn't be bothered to care after his legs were debilitated. He just stared at Chen Longtu. Chen Longtu didn't have Wu Qiong's power to run through windows. Lang Ji had already beaten Li Sandao to the ground but didn't kill him. At this moment, Lang Ji wanted to kill Chen Longtu more than Yi Mo. Even the other few members of Nanqing in the meeting were also killed by Lang Ji. Chen Longtu stared at Yi Mo with a pale face and said after a while, "If it wasn't for Lang Ji, this traitor, I have an army of a few thousand. Would I be scared of you?" Yi Mo walked a few steps and sat down. "It is useless to mobilize your army against me. That would just cause more death. Did you think you could trap me in the sea? You overestimate yourself. To me, your army is no different to a few chickens and dogs. I originally planned for you to live a few days extra, but I didn't expect you to seek death. You dare to look for trouble with me again." Then Yi Mo shook his head. Lang Ji stared at Chen Longtu with hatred. If Yi Mo wasn't here, he would have already charged on him already. But for Yi Mo, he had a deep fear. He knew no matter who he was, Yi Mo could kill him as easy as killing an ant. Chen Longtu gasped and suddenly felt like he had met the end of his road. Perhaps he looked glorious, but the person who really did what he wanted in Nanqing was Dongfang Shi. He did many things after listening to Dongfang Shi's words. If it wasn't for his plans, then perhaps he really would have been scared by the news Lang Ji brought back. Or perhaps even if Dongfang Shi persuaded him to run, he wouldn't believe his words. Chen Longtu had regretted challenging Yi Mo, but everything was too late now. At this moment, he wanted to kill Dongfang Shi more than Yi Mo, but he knew Yi Mo wouldn't let him go. "If you let me go, I'm willing to satisfy you with all my wealth. I was blinded and dared to challenge you. I just want to kill Dongfang Shi who betrayed me and left." If there was a regretting medicine, Chen Longtu would rather be a turtle than act against Yi Mo. He never expected the world to have someone as horrifying as Yi Mo. Even people from the ancient martial arts wouldn't be so arrogant when facing his army. Xian Taoist was pretty strong and perhaps even on par with Yi Mo, but he didn't dare to do anything to him. Although he couldn't do anything to Xian Daoist either, he still had the power to fend him off. But facing Yi Mo, he realized perhaps even Xian Daoist was no match for him unless Xian Daoist could break through. Hearing Qian Longtu's words, Yi Mo's heart moved. He wasn't going to let Qian Longtu go, but he thought of something else. This Nanqing had great power and wealth. If he could use it to help him find spirit grass, that would be great. Moreover, the people he could use right now was only Lang Ji. Thinking about this, he looked at Lang Ji and said, "Do what you need to do, after that, I need to have a talk with you." Lang Ji had been waiting for a long time. Now that Yi Mo made the call, he didn't hesitate at all and kicked. Qian Longtu would have never thought that he would die under the foot of his trusted man, Lang Ji. Before he died, even the person he thought he could trust the most, Dongfang Shi, betrayed him. Seeing Lang Ji kill Qian Longtu, Yi Mo looked at Li Sandao. He didn't ask Lang Ji how to deal with him. Although Lang Ji was accepted by Yi Mo and he was also one of the powerhouses of Nanqing, it wouldn't be so easy for him to stabilize his rule. In Yi Mo's opinion, Lang Ji shouldn't have killed these few old men in the meeting. Instead, he should have made them surrender. But since Lang Ji killed them, Yi Mo didn't care. How to grasp power was Lang Ji's problem, not Yi Mo's. As for the internal battle, it didn't concern him if Lang Ji was killed. Nanqing including Lang Ji weren't good people. So what if they died? The more they fought, the more died, the better. But no matter what they did, as long as they didn't annoy him, he wouldn't care about them. "Brother Yi, please give me orders, my life is yours from now on." After killing Qian Longtu, Lang Ji suddenly felt the gloominess in his heart dissipate. Of course, Yi Mo wouldn't believe Lang Ji's words. For people like him, their own lives mattered the most. Yi Mo just sneered inside when Lang Ji said those words. However, he believed that Lang Ji no longer dared to hunt him or anything. If he did, then he would come back and send him to hell. "After you are done dealing with these things, I have some things I need you to do, but I haven't cleared them out yet. I'm going to Beijing immediately. When I come back, we'll go to that house and tell you the things I need you to do. If you can do it well, I don't mind curing your hands. If I'm unsatisfied, then don't expect me to treat you," Yi Mo blandly said. He wouldn't help Lang Ji up his power and treat his hands for no reason. Even if he were to treat his hand, that would depend on how much help Lang Ji is to him. Lang Ji could only nod to agree. "Okay, you need to organize Nanqing now, I won't manage it. Do what you like, I'm going." Afterwards, Yi Mo turned and left. As for whether Lang Ji could really control Nanqing, that was his business. Of course, Lang Ji knew Yi Mo was testing his ability. If he really couldn't take control of Nanqing, then to Yi Mo, he would have no value. Although he knew Yi Mo's idea, Lang Ji didn't dare to disagree. He quickly told Black Snake to send Yi Mo to the airport. Of course, Kai Yu-jun didn't get any result in the investigation at Luokang. Not only did Nanqing's men disappear, even Metal River's men seemed to know something was happening at Luokang and left. But unexpectedly, Ning Qingxue, who was originally planning to leave, stayed. Although Kai Wanqing didn't know for what reason, she didn't want Ning Qingxue to leave. If she was by herself, she could only go back to the military. This life was too much of a torture for her. "Qingxue, who do you think is trying to capture us too?" Kai Wanqing believed it could be related to Yi Mo, but she wasn't too sure. Ning Qingxue thought and said with certainty, "It should be due to Yi Mo because both of us are related to him. These people probably want to capture us to threaten him. So you don't want to leave Luokang because you're afraid you would be captured by these people and be used to threaten Brother Yi?" Kai Wanqing wasn't stupid. Seeing Ning Qingxue say with such certainty their abduction was related to Yi Mo, she could think of why Ning Qingxue wanted to stay. Ning Qingxue nodded. "I owe him too much, and I've been dragging him down. Even the Song family's hunt on him was due to me, and he almost lost his life. If I'm captured by his enemies again, he would definitely be affected. When I go back to Yu State, I would be living with my mother. It won't be as safe as with you. At least there's Little Wolf's protection here. I can't burden him anymore." Past mistakes are in the past, but if I'm still going to make mistakes, then even I wouldn't be able to forgive myself. Ning Qingshua's tone seemed distant. Seeing Kai Wanqing look at her in surprise, Ning Qingxue continued, "He's a man with great abilities. I just didn't know before. I'm thinking if those people are targeting him due to this, but regardless, if he had no worries, it would be better." Ning Qingxue thought about Yimo's pills and the protection beads he made as well as those runic charms. For the first time, she felt she was far from understanding Yimo. Chapter 135, That 1%. Chapter 135, That 1%. The Yi family would have never thought that Nanqing, whom they were in heavy conflict with, would suddenly come asking for cooperation and even compensate for their losses. Their only request was for the Yi family to help the Song family in dealing with Yimo. The two great families of China plus the greatest gang would be fighting a mere Yimo. The Yi family could already foresee Yimo's fate, but unexpectedly, before the Yi family had made up their mind, the Nanqing people suddenly went back and only left behind contact details. Although this seemed simple, the leader of the family, Yi Beirong, didn't immediately agree to Nanqing's request and instead opened a meeting. Different from the previous ones, Yi Zifeng was included in the meeting. Yi Zifeng was Yimo's younger brother. Yi Beirong was straightforward about the situation and asked everyone to voice their opinion. "Grandpa, although Yimo's my brother, I wouldn't go out of my way to talk for him. From the family's perspective, we can't agree to Nanqing's request. No matter what, Yimo is from the Yi family. If we're going to hunt someone from our own family, we're using our own stick to beat ourselves. We would just be making a joke out of ourselves." As soon as Yi Beirong finished talking, Yi Zifeng spoke. No one would have thought the first one to talk would be Yi Zifeng, not just because he was the youngest, but also because it was his first time participating in the family meeting. As soon as Yi Zifeng finished, Yi Huang stood up and said, "Zifeng, that's wrong. Yimo is no longer a part of the Yi family. The entire Beijing knows this. Saying he's from the Yi family is an insult to us. I think this is a great opportunity for our family. Not only can we resolve our conflict with Nanqing, but we can also make our business return to its former state. There's not a single harm in this." Yi Zifeng immediately said, "What do you mean, Yi Huang? Even if Yimo isn't the biological son of my father, he's still been living in the family for so many years. So what if I call him brother? Is my brother not a part of the Yi family? You actually agreed to help Nanqing attack Yimo, do you have no shame?" Yi Huang immediately stood up and was about to argue, but Yi Beiguang coughed on the side, and Yi Huang realized this was a family meeting and quickly sat down. However, the fury in his eyes grew. Yi Beirong didn't seem to see the fight between the two younger generations and slowly looked at the others and asked, "What do you guys think?" Yi Long said, "I think Yi Huang is right. Yimo is indeed no longer a part of the Yi family. It's hard for Nanqing to release such a signal of peace. Moreover, they are even willing to compensate us. I think we should accept it. After all, our fight with the Song family is clear, so we should join forces with Nanqing and trap Yimo even if it's just for show." "I agree," Yi Wenjin said. "I also agree," Yi Wenqi said. "Agree." No one didn't agree except for Yi Zifeng and Yi Beirong, who hadn't said his opinion. Besides Yi Beirong sat an old man who also didn't say anything. Other than them, everyone else agreed with Yi Long's words. Yi Zifeng's face was pale. However, Yi Huang looked at him in satisfaction. Yi Zifeng didn't say anything. He understood that if there was anyone in the Yi family who was willing to help Yimo, it would only be him. Even his sister, Yi Ling, looked down on Yimo and hoped Yimo would get kicked out. However, his power was limited. When Yimo was studying at Ninghai, he could only send some of his pocket money to Wang Ying for Yimo to use. At this moment, Yi Zifeng just wanted to notify Yimo quickly to tell him not to come to Beijing. He was really worried, but he suddenly thought of something. His grandpa knew that only he thought Yimo was still part of the family. Why did he still let him participate in this family meeting? Thinking about this, Yi Zifeng shook with excitement. Did his grandpa think the same way? Yi Zifeng never thought Yimo wasn't his brother. As for blood testing that Yimo wasn't of the same father as him, Yi Zifeng didn't believe that at all. He knew that his big uncle hoped to kick them both out of the family. However, Grandpa liked his father and him better. They couldn't kick him out, so they made up drama on Yi Mo. Although Yi Mo wasn't so achieving and allowed them to find a reason to kick him out, Yi Zifeng was always careful and wouldn't let them get a hold of him. However, his sister, Yi Ling, was still immature and was getting more distant with him and Yi Mo, and was instead getting closer with the people on his great-uncle's side. What do you think, Brother Jing? Yi Beirong suddenly looked at that old man sitting on the side. Everyone in the family knew this Brother Jing wasn't of the Yi family. As for why he could appear in this meeting, no one knew. This old man smiled and said, Beirong, you're making things hard for me. I shouldn't intervene with your family issues. After all, I'm not surnamed Yi. However, Yi Beirong actually nodded after hearing this and said, Okay, thank you for your hint, I understand. Everyone else looked at the leader in surprise, not knowing what he understood. That Brother Jing obviously said he didn't want to say anything. What did the leader understand? Yi Beirong sighed. There were 2 little elite men from the Yi family. In all of these people, he couldn't find one suitable heir. He already understood Brother Jing's words. He meant that Yi Mo was from the Yi family, so it was the Yi family's business. He also specially pointed out that he wasn't surnamed Yi. This meant that other than him, Yi Mo and everyone else was named Yi, but no one understood this meaning. Yi Beirong wasn't an idiot. If Yi Mo was a simple person, then Nanqing wouldn't need to use the Yi family and Song family to deal with him. It could be seen that Yi Mo had completely changed and was no longer the Yi Mo they knew. As for what encounters Yi Mo had, Yi Beirong didn't know. He only needed to know that Yi Mo was someone even Nanqing felt threatened by. Yi Beirong really wanted to see Yi Mo right now and see what sort of a person he had changed to. Even the leader of Nanqing, Qian Longtu, felt so threatened by him. Even the Song family couldn't do anything to them. Everyone in the Yi family knew now that Yi Mo killed Song Shuoan. Not only the Yi family, but many people in Beijing knew this. Yi Beirong coughed and said, although Yi Mo isn't a part of the Yi family now, some things are hard to judge. For example, the DNA test was erroneous or some other misunderstandings may have occurred. Right now, we shouldn't conclude this. After all, Yi Mo also stayed in the Yi family. After being kicked out and hunted, the most extreme we should go to is not care. If we are to follow and hunt him too, then our Yi family would seem too shabby. Yi Beirong paused and looked at everyone before continuing, so, there's no need for us to help Nanqing hunt Yi Mo to further undermine our reputation. Our family isn't sustained using this relationship. And, Nanqing attacked our business. No matter what, we are going to make them pay. We need to let them remember that the Yi family fears no one, even Nanqing. Yi Long, immediately go investigate what Yi Mo had done recently and report to me. Hearing the leader's words, Yi Wenjin seemed hesitant. Speak if you have something to say. Yi Beirong saw Yi Wenjin's hesitation. Father, if we search for news of Yi Mo, aren't we telling Nanqing that Yi Mo is really important to us? In that case, aren't we exacerbating our problems with Nanqing? Yi Wenjin asked. Yi Beirong sneered. I really feel ashamed for all of you. Is our family supposed to fear a gang organization? If we can't even fend off Nanqing, then there's no point to our existence. Plus, even if Nanqing doesn't look for our trouble, are we to let them go? Although his voice was no longer young, his attitude was extremely firm. After all, Dongfang she wasn't a god. He was already sure that 99% of the people in the Yi family would agree to hunt Yi Mo, but he didn't calculate that 1%. Sometimes, not much people was needed to make the deciding call. Regardless, Nanqing couldn't even help themselves now, much less have time for Yi family's business. When Yi Mo returned to Luokang and took his things, he took another $20,000 and addressed Lu Xiaozhu and Yu Erhu on the online clinic before leaving for Beijing. Although he killed Qian Longtu this time and could take the money there, Yi Mo didn't. First, he wasn't short on money, and another was that Yi Mo would get Lang Ji to find spirit herbs for him. That would cost a lot, so he didn't take any money from Nanqing. What? You're saying that Yi Mo dares to just waltz into Beijing? Song Chiming received Song Hai's report and almost couldn't believe it. Did Yimo want to die? What? You're saying that Yimo dares to just waltz into Beijing? Song Chiming received Song Hai's report and almost couldn't believe it. Did Yimo want to die? But he hesitated for a moment before recovering his composure and immediately said, "Send a few people and bring him here. Nanqing is really useless. Still can't even deal with a little Yimo leader." Song Huan hesitated and seemed to have something to say. Song Chiming knew that Song Hai was very reliable and therefore gave him this important mission to him. If it was Song Hai's words, he would still think about it. Seeing Song Hai act like this, he knew there was something Song Hai wanted to say, so he immediately said, "If there's something, just tell me, there's no other people here." Song Hai immediately said, "I don't think it's the right time to abduct Yimo now." Seeing Song Chiming's confused eyes, Song Hai said, "A few days ago, Yimo took the plane from Mang River to Sri Lanka, and 3 days ago, he just returned from Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka has a line that goes straight to Sai-Na Peninsula, so I think Yimo has been to Sai-Na Peninsula." Hearing Song Hai's words, Song Chiming dazed and subconsciously answered, "Yimo went to Sai-Na Peninsula? Then how does he have the life to come back? He killed Chen Longtu's son, would Chen Longtu let him go?" Song Hai sighed. "Leader, that's the problem, there's no way Chen Longtu would let Yimo go, but Yimo returned unharmed. This is the problem. I don't know what's up, but other than Yimo killing Chen Longtu or Chen Longtu unable to do anything to Yimo, I really can't think of another reason." Hearing Song Hai's words, Song Chiming's eyes frowned more. If Song Hai's words were true, then Yimo was too powerful. He remembered the time when Yimo was cultivating at Ninghai and said, "Is Yimo really a student of ancient martial arts?" He thought before continuing, if he isn't, then how can he go there and retreat? If he is, then things are tricky. Song Hai sighed and said, "Leader, don't worry, Yimo just went to Sri Lanka. We don't know if he went to Sai-Na. And even if he is a student of ancient martial arts, he wouldn't be from the hidden sects if he could stay so long in the normal world. At most, he's a desolate ancient martial artist's disciple. I've already sent people to investigate Sai-Na, so there should be some news today." Song Chiming nodded and still didn't talk when Song Hai's phone rang. Song Chiming signaled for Song Hai to pick it up. Song Hai picked up and his face grew worse by the moment. "What's wrong?" Song Chiming saw Song Hai's face change and felt things weren't good. Song Hai took a deep breath and said, "I just received news, something happened to Nanqing. Sai-Na is now shut down. According to the news, it is because Chen Longtu died. Now, Lang Ji and the hierarchy of Nanqing are fighting for power. It's said to be very messy." "What? Chen Longtu died?" Song Chiming was shocked. Who was Chen Longtu? Someone who escaped with ease after so many years of the government hunting him. He rampaged in America and Europe and even established a gang base in Africa. Someone like this would die so easily? Song Chiming wouldn't believe it. Song Chiming suddenly thought of a problem. Song Hai said that Yimo could have gone to Sai-Na Peninsula, and then he immediately heard news of Chen Longtu dying. Song Hai also thought of this. The two looked at each other and said Yimo at the same time. Song Chiming suddenly shivered. If Yimo could really kill Chen Longtu amongst thousands of people, then killing people from the Song family would be all too easy. No wonder he just waltzed into Beijing. It seemed that he didn't even care about the Song family. He was someone so terrifying. Then who was his master? Who taught such a monster? Song Chiming suddenly remembered Song Shoan driving off the cliff in the middle of the night. Things were too strange. Song Chiming finally calmed down after a while and said, "Immediately hold a family meeting, tell everyone in the family not to get into conflict with Yimo. And, immediately investigate what Yimo had been doing recently, immediately." Then, Song Chiming said to Song Hai, "Did you tell Hu Cho's master about what happened to him?" Song Hai immediately said, "Hu Cho's master is on holiday and we can't contact him yet. Once he comes back, I will immediately tell him about Hu Cho." Song Chiming nodded. "Immediately go hold the family meeting." As soon as Yimo got off the plane and went into the tunnel, he saw that the airport outside was full of people. These people had small signs saying "I love Tan Fei," or "Welcome Tan Fei." It seemed some pop star or celebrity was coming to Beijing. Judging by the looks of it, she had quite a lot of fans. Excuse me. The youth behind Yi Mo thought Yi Mo was walking too slow. Tan Fei, don't worry, we're already at Beijing, are we that short on time? Plus, this place is indeed narrow, a crisp voice interrupted Tan Fei. That youth didn't rebuke and said, okay, Sister Fei. It's just that there are a lot of fans outside. I'm afraid that there'll be a ruckus. It's better to go somewhere more spacious later. As soon as the youth said this, Yi Mo knew that the person behind should be Tan Fei. Yi Mo didn't intentionally block her way. After all, there was a lot of people. Even if he moved aside, there would still be people blocking in front. However, as soon as they got out of the tunnel, Yi Mo moved to the side. This Tan Fei had a few big luggage cases, it would be better to let her go first. After all, he was empty-handed. Seeing Yi Mo move to the side as soon as they got out of the tunnel, Tan Fei politely said, thank you. Yi Mo shook his head. He didn't think that was necessary, but this tunnel was indeed narrow. There was a lot of people here today. It seemed that a lot of flights were coming at the same time, and the inspection ahead was slow. He wondered if something happened today. Even after moving aside, Tan Fei and the youth only moved a bit further and stopped. Thank you for before, this is my new album with my signature, my newest one, it's for you. Tan Fei's voice was very crisp, but she made a living out of it. Now because of the security ahead, they stopped for now, so Tan Fei took it out for Yi Mo. She saw Yi Mo dressed ordinarily and let her move ahead and believed him to be her fan. Plus, she felt that this person was very calm, so she gave her album as thanks. A lot of people looked at Yi Mo in admiration. They all knew Tan Fei, but they needed to keep their composure, so they didn't rush up for signature. However, none of them expected that Tan Fei would give one album to Yi Mo. Yi Mo looked at the album and waved his helplessly hand. Sorry, I don't have a place to put it, and I don't like listening to music, it would be a waste giving it to me. Although he rejected the gift, Tan Fei gave him a good impression. This woman was indeed pretty, she had thick long eyebrows. Although she wasn't as good looking as Ning Qingxue, her faint makeup did give her a unique taste. Hearing Yi Mo's words, Tan Fei awkwardly took her hands back. She didn't think that someone would reject an album she gave and would speak in front of her that he didn't like songs. That was unimaginable. Not only was Tan Fei shocked, but so was everyone around. Even if one didn't like songs, one should show some manners at least. Even if he would throw it away later, he should still take it. It was too impolite to reject a star like that. That youth who told Yi Mo to move glared at Yi Mo. Yi Mo smiled and didn't care. However, Tan Fei quickly returned her composure and apologetically said, I'm really sorry, I didn't know you didn't like songs, I thought you heard of my name. Then, she playfully said, it seems I'm not famous enough, haha. Then, she didn't pay more attention to Yi Mo. Yi Mo smiled and didn't reply. Hey, friend, that was Tan Fei. Why didn't you take it? She signed it and gave it to you herself, yet you didn't want it. Don't tell me you haven't heard of Tan Fei. The youth behind Yi Mo saw Tan Fei turn around and immediately spoke to Yi Mo. Yi Mo speechlessly asked, why must I have heard of her? The youth was at a loss for words. Yeah, why did he have to know her? Tan Fei obviously heard Yi Mo's words as the corner of her mouth spasmed, but she eventually didn't say anything. She must have felt quite intrigued. She was the most famous star in China and Hong Kong, but someone said in her face that he didn't know her. If Yi Mo was a 60-year-old man, it would be fair enough, however, he was a youth in his 20s. She really felt weird, but luckily, the tunnel was unblocked now. She carried a small case and walked out with her assistant. Seeing the fans outside, she finally found some confidence back. Yi Mo wasn't someone who liked to spend money and was even very conservative. But for places that he should spend money on, he wasn't stingy. Although there were a lot of high-star hotels in Beijing, the prices were too high. He only had $20,000 and that wasn't enough for 2 nights. Yi Mo wasn't someone who liked to spend money and was even very conservative. But for places that he should spend money on, he wasn't stingy. Although there were a lot of high-star hotels in Beijing, the prices were too high. He only had $20,000 and that wasn't enough for 2 nights. So, The first thing Yimo did after getting off the plane wasn't to find a place to live but to buy a phone. It was too inconvenient to call Lee, who using public payphones, plus a phone didn't cost that much. He didn't buy it before because he didn't need it, but now that he did, he would go buy one. Yimo didn't have much requirements for a phone. As long as it could be used to call, he didn't mind if it had other functions. But when he walked into a phone shop, he was dazzled by the variety of phones. He really didn't want to spend time picking a phone or brand. "Handsome, what phone do you want?" Yimo looked around, and just when he didn't know what to do, the counter girl greeted him. Yimo looked at this sweet-looking girl and thought these business people really knew how to talk. No matter how the person looked, the male would be handsome, and the female would be beautiful. "Help me get a phone." As soon as Yimo spoke, he found that not only the girl held her mouth with her hand, but even the people on the side looked at him in surprise. Some of them wanted to laugh. But the counter girl immediately resisted and asked, "What brand do you want? What style?" Yimo knew what they were laughing about, but he didn't know a thing about phones and could only say, "I don't have a requirement for brand, as long as it can call clearly, then it would be fine." It was a hillbilly, the people around understood. This ordinary-looking youth was a hillbilly. People who bought phones now cared least about calling capabilities. People sought after high pixels, internet speed, and looks. Hearing Yimo's words, the girl no longer had her previous enthusiasm. Any phone could call, there were ones for $200 or $300, but she wouldn't be able to earn off that. Yimo knew what she was thinking just by looking at her but didn't care. Who didn't want to earn money? However, Yimo didn't notice that someone at the corner of the shop stared at him for a while before mumbling, "It's Yimo, he came to Beijing." Then, the person ran out of the shop quickly. The girl took an old-styled Nokia from behind the counter and said to Yimo, "This Nokia is quite clear for calls and it's cheap. It's just that the appearance and other functions are a bit worse off. This one is $550. Although there were 200 to 300s, but the girl still wanted to earn some money. She would see if Yimo would take it. If he thought that was expensive, she would lower the price. Yimo nodded, took out $1,000 and presented it to the girl. "I'll have this one. Use the rest to get a card for me and charge it up." The girl couldn't react for a long time. She didn't expect this young man to have some money. If she knew this, she would have gave him a more expensive model. Thinking about this, the girl quickly said, "Sir, there are better phones. Do you want?" Before she could say more, Yimo interrupted and said, "Hurry up and do it, I'm busy." "Stop, don't leave." A voice beside Yimo called out. Yimo turned around and saw a shop personnel pulling a youth in his 20s. The youth had a face full of worry with one hand holding a water bottle. Yimo phased because he knew this youth. When he was at Flowing Snake, he saw this youth behind Fang Nan. He should be Fang Nan's lackey, so why did he appear at Beijing's shop? "Brother Yi." This youth obviously knew Yimo and stopped struggling. Yimo walked over and looked at the personnel. What's going on? Although Yimo didn't wear famous brands, he had his temperament. The personnel saw that the youth knew Yimo, so he let the youth go and pointed at him. "He broke our TV and I'm making him pay. He says he didn't do it." The youth didn't rebuke. Just then, he poured his water into the TV and the TV got short-circuited. "I saw it with my own eyes," the worker immediately said. Yimo looked at the youth's pale face and knew the worker was telling the truth. He didn't know what the youth was doing in Beijing, but if he was doing errands for Fang Nan, then he didn't mind helping him solve the problem. After all, Fang Nan also helped Ning Qingxue last time. "What are you doing here?" Yimo asked. The youth showed hesitance and looked around as though saying this wasn't the place to talk. Yimo looked at the worker and said, "How much is the TV? I'll pay you." $5. 3K. The worker pointed at the sign. Yimo didn't even bother to argue and just gave the worker $5. 3K and took the phone. He didn't even take the receipt and said to the youth, "Let's go." He took the youth to a fast food restaurant and ordered 2 coffees as he signaled the youth to sit down. He didn't know the youth's name. The youth seemed to know this and said as soon as he sat down, "Brother Yi, I'm Xiao Hua. I've been following Brother Nan, you should have seen me." Yimo saw this Xiao Hua was over 20 and couldn't understand why he did something so immature. What's going on? Did Fang Nan send you? Yimo asked. He saw that Xiao Hua hadn't washed his clothes for a long time. It seemed that he didn't have a good time in Beijing. Xiao Hua's eyes were red and said, I wasn't sent by Brother Nan. Brother Nan was almost killed and his legs are injured. He can't get up. He's no longer in Flowing Snake but hiding in a small town at the border of Vietnam. I snuck to Beijing. I brought something to Beijing to sell, but I was caught and lost everything. The person who took my things seemed to want to keep it for himself and didn't investigate my origins and just let me go. Yimo understood why Xiao Hua was so worried when he was caught by the shop worker. If the police came and his origins were investigated, then he would probably go to jail. Who would have a clean record coming from Flowing Snake? But Fang Nan almost being killed and getting kicked out of Flowing Snake took Yimo by surprise. He had already paved the way in Flowing Snake, and there were basically no strong power factions. Why would Fang Nan still be kicked out? And last time, when Ning Qingxue went to Flowing Snake, he still seemed to be the big boss in Flowing Snake. Seeing Yimo's confused expression, Xiao Hua hurried and said, Last time when your wife went to Flowing Snake, Brother Nan had a conflict due to her things and broke Shuwei's legs and kicked him out of Flowing Snake. Brother Nan thought that although Shuwei was from the amphibious gang, he only needed to pay some money. But this Shuwei was influential and made the amphibious gang annihilate our Pu Dao gang. Brother Nan was almost killed. We lost a lot of brothers in that battle. Brother Nan was heavily injured and taken out of Flowing Snake by us. Now, we're hiding in a small town by the border. Because we didn't have much money and didn't dare to do any business, I brought something to Beijing to sell but my thing was confiscated and I was almost caught. Yimo curiously asked, Why do you have to come to Beijing to sell? And why did you look for trouble in the shop? Xiao Hua looked down for a while before saying, Because I didn't have money and felt depressed. I've been wandering around the shop, but the TV was talking about amphibians. I hate the word amphibians. I saw there was no one on the side, so I tipped the water into the TV, but I was still seen. Yimo was speechless. This Xiao Hua was indeed from Flowing Snake. He could find such an absurd reason. However, since Fang Nan helped Ning Qingxue and was almost killed due to her, Yimo had to help him no matter what. He just didn't know where this amphibious gang popped out from. But since he wasn't even afraid of Nanqing, he wouldn't be afraid of this amphibious gang. Thinking about this, he gave $1.0k to Xiao Hua and said, Go back first, tell Fang Nan to heal up. This thing started because of me, so I will go back and avenge him. When I'm done with the things in Beijing, I will go there. Xiao Hua stood up in joy. If Yimo said he was going to help, then things would be all good. Although he wanted to reject the $10,000, but he really didn't have any money, so he could only take it. Yimo sent Xiao Hua away and walked out of the shop and just realized the sky was dark. He only had a few $1,000s on him now, but he didn't mind because he was soon going to take back the $500,000 of debt. However, he didn't expect Fang Nan to be kicked out by the amphibious gang. This gang seemed quite big. He shook his head and took out the phone. He wanted to call Li Hu. Li Hu's phone was off. Yimo didn't know if he came back from the desert or went on another mission. Yimo could only get out the phone and call Zhuaigua, but he couldn't reach through as well. Li Hu's phone was off. Yimo didn't know if he came back from the desert or went on another mission. Yimo could only get out the phone and call Zhuaigua, but he couldn't reach through as well. Luckily, Yimo knew where Zhuaigua lived and called a taxi to there. As soon as Yimo reached that small region, Zhuaigua's phone called back. When he heard it was Yimo calling, he was excited. However, he wasn't in Beijing now and took his son and wife to America. He promised Yimo that he would be able to come back tomorrow. Yimo hung up the phone in disappointment. It seemed that he should have called them before he came. Li Hu could just transfer the money, but how was he going to treat Zhuaigua's son if he didn't see him? Since Zhuaigua could only come back tomorrow, Yimo could only find a place to live first for the night. At the same time, Yimo wondered if he should go see Yi Zifeng. A few people looking like students walked over, and Yimo didn't notice them. He walked up to a vending machine and wanted to buy a bottle of water. He felt his pocket and realized he had no coins. This machine seemed to only take coins. Yimo could only shake his head and go to a nearby supermarket. But at this moment, an arm blocked Yimo's way. Yimo reacted and grabbed that wrist, but before he used much force, the owner of the wrist yelled out. The students surrounded him immediately. Yimo calmed down and noticed that the one stopping him was a girl, so he quickly let go her. He looked closely at the girl only to realize that he had actually seen her before. Hey, what the hell? I just wanted to ask you something. The girl had tears circulating in her eyes and was obviously not happy with Yimo's reaction. The few male students had come up, and by the looks of it, if Yimo said anything wrong, they would attack him immediately. Yimo smiled and said, "You're asking the wrong person, I just came to Beijing." The girl rubbed her wrist before looking at Yimo again and saying, "I've definitely seen you before, your eyes are too familiar. Your eyes are very beautiful, it's definitely you, right?" Yimo was speechless. The girl's friends were also speechless. She's been rambling for so long but still didn't say who Yimo was. However, she kept talking about his eye. However, Yimo knew that this girl recognized him. He didn't think he would still be recognized even when he wore a face mask. This girl was the Qing he met at Likang Hospital. She and her grandpa came to the hospital, and her grandpa was poisoned by purple coral. However, Yimo just saved his life for 3 years and didn't cure it completely. "Young Qing, are you infatuated? What eyes? Do you think this is a drama?" A girl beside Zhuo Yangqing said. Zhuo Yangqing was already sure that this young man was the person who cured her grandpa at the hospital and even took her $50,000. It has been a year and according to what Yimo said, her grandpa only had 3 years to live. She dreamed day and night to see Yimo again. She had been to Ninghai and Likang countless times. She even got to know everyone who worked there but still couldn't find Yimo. It was because before, Yimo had a face mask, so his eyes were set in more and more in Zhuo Yangqing's head. She would even dream of that bright pair of eyes. She was confident that as soon as he saw those eyes, she would be able to recognize him. And, she really did see him today. Zhuo Yangqing was clueless in her speech and grabbed Yimo's sleeve. She was afraid Yimo would suddenly disappear again. She desperately asked, "Tell me, are you the doctor who helped me grandpa at Likang Hospital?" Yimo nodded helplessly and said, "Yes, I believe you grandpa is fine, right?" Yimo was quite confident in his medical skills. He did not believe that something happened to the girl's grandpa in less than 3 years. No, my grandpa is fine. I've been looking for you at Ninghai countless times and I actually found you. I'm so happy, so happy." Zhuo Yangqing's expression was getting chaotic. In her heart, if she found Yimo, then it meant her grandpa would be saved. "Then can you let go first?" Yimo looked speechlessly at Zhuo Yangqing. "Oh, okay." Zhuo Yangqing still nervously stared at Yimo after letting go. She was scared that Yimo would disappear as soon as she didn't pay attention. "Yangqing, do you still want me to go to live with you at your third uncle's house? If not, I'm going back to school with Wang Fei and them," a short girl reminded Zhuo Yangqing. Zhuo Yangqing had calmed down now and quickly said, "No need, thank you, Fang, I have things to do now." "Okay, let's go." Those youth looked at Yimo a few times and bid Yangqing farewell. Yimo knew this girl wanted him to go cure her grandpa's disease, and he was third stage Kai gathering now, so it was very easy to cure her grandpa. "Hello doctor, I'm Zhuo Yangqing. You should know why I wanted to find you so desperately. After you treated my grandpa last time, my grandpa had been well and is still very healthy. My whole family is looking for you, but we couldn't find you. Now that I met you, this is really luck amongst luck." Although Zhuo Yangqing had calmed down, she was still excited. Yimo estimated that it was 6 to 7 p.m. now, and he didn't have any medical equipment. He originally planned to go buy it after getting the money from Li Hu, but he couldn't reach him. Seeing Yimo didn't talk, Zhuo Yangqing worriedly said, "Doctor, this time, my aunties are all at home, so you can have as much money as you want. As long as you cure my grandpa." In Zhuo Yangqing's eyes, Yimo was a doctor who only looked at money. In other words, he had no medical ethics. He would cure as long as there was money. Yimo smiled and didn't argue. Before, he asked for money so vigorously because he really had nothing on him and he needed money desperately for cultivation. Now, he wasn't so worried, but it was natural to be paid for treating diseases. If he was going to help the girl's grandpa, of course he would charge money. Okay, give me your number. After I'm done with my errands tomorrow, I'll call you. I'm busy today. Yimo had decided to go visit Yi Zifeng. After all, when he was at school, Wang Ying gave him quite a lot of help. Not that he thought about it, Wang Ying probably helped him due to Yi Zifeng. Indeed, the only person who didn't hate him in the Yi family was Yi Zifeng. What if you disappear again, then I would regret it my whole life. I don't know what your name is, Zhuo Yangqing subconsciously said. Yimo frowned. I'm busy now, are you going to follow me? Zhuo Yangqing fearfully looked at Yimo. She was scared that Yimo was just going to leave, and she would never find him again. Seeing that Yimo was about to turn and leave, she quickly said once again, didn't you say you just got to Beijing? I'm familiar with the place, so I can take you wherever you want to go. Then, Zhuo Yangqing seemed to feel this was a good idea and said, yes, I'll be your guide. Yimo thought that he indeed wasn't familiar with Beijing and didn't even know where the Yi family was. Zhuo Yangqing's suggestion was good. Thinking about this, Yimo nodded and said, okay, do you know how to get to the Yi family? I'm looking for Yi Zifeng. If you don't know it, then don't worry. Yi Zifeng, I've heard of him, but I only know where his sister is, Zhuo Yangqing immediately said. Yi Zifeng's sister, wasn't she Yi Ling? She was his sister too. Although her attitude to him was bad, but Wang Ying helped him due to her. If he could find Yi Ling, he could be able to see Yi Zifeng. Although Yimo didn't know the exact reason he was kicked out of the Yi family, if he could be framed, so could Yi Zifeng. If Yi Zifeng needed his help, he could bring him to Luo Kang and learn medicine with him. You know Yi Ling? Yimo casually asked. Zhuo Yangqing immediately said, you know her name, so that means you really know her. Yi Ling is the school queen of our uni. Of course I know her. She didn't say she was one of the school queens and was ranked higher. Yimo nodded. Okay, then take me to your uni and find Yi Ling. Yimo thought that if could find Yi Ling, he could find Yi Zifeng. Zhuo Yangqing didn't mind and said, okay, let's go. I'll take you to her. By the way, I don't know your name yet. I'm Yimo. After Yimo said that, he realized Zhuo Yangqing stared at him for a long time, and then she looked at Yimo's underpart. Yimo couldn't help but touch his nose and feel speechless. Zhuo Yangqing's cute and innocent impression in his mind was lost. The girls nowadays were really bold. Obviously, Zhuo Yangqing also heard of Yimo's name and knew he was impotent, but probably no one knew that ever since Yimo came back from the desert, he was no longer impotent. His meridian was cleared as soon as he reached stage 3. Now, he was strong as ever. Zhuo Yangqing seemed to notice her impoliteness and quickly looked up with a blushed face. Sorry, Brother Yi, I was being impolite. Zhuo Yanqing realized after her explanation that she shouldn't have explained anything. Sorry, Brother Yi, I was being impolite. Zhuo Yanqing realized after her explanation that she shouldn't have explained anything. Yimo shook his head and said, don't talk these nonsense, hurry up and take me to Yi Linghua University. Wasn't far from where Zhuo Igua lived and was only a few minutes walk away. Although Zhuo Yangqing looked calm when she was walking with Yimo, she wasn't calm on the inside at all. Almost everyone knew about Yimo in Beijing. Even the normal citizens heard about Yimo due to that reason and realization that he wasn't of Yi family blood. He was kicked out of the Yi family and was the laughingstock of the people for a while. Even Zhuo Yangqing and her roommates would often talk about it. Although she didn't say it, her dorm mates often talked about it. Every time she heard about it, she wanted to laugh, but she realized that the person she wanted to find was Yimo and almost couldn't believe herself. At this moment, she almost thought she was looking for the wrong person and subconsciously looked at Yimo's crotch. Luckily, Yimo didn't mind, but she immediately felt it wasn't right. This Yimo had no similarity to the Yimo in the stories. The Yimo in front of her not only had clear eyes, his manner was also generous and very at ease. The features of his face was defined. He was nothing like the stories. With his medical skills, He was almost the perfect man. He just asked for money too much, and this was the only similar part. After all, Zhuo Yangqing came from a big family and immediately thought of the family competition. It seemed that all those stories were fake. The main reason was to kick Yi Mo out of the Yi family. Thinking about this, Zhuo Yangqing suddenly came to a realization and almost looked at Yi Mo's crotch again, but luckily she resisted that urge. It should be family competition. Yi Mo was a sacrificial goat kicked out of the Yi family due to the competition. It seemed that every big family was the same. Brother Yi, you still haven't eaten yet. There's a canteen in our school where you can cook. I'll cook a few dishes and we can eat together. Yi Mo looked at the door of the university. Indeed, he hadn't eaten yet. Just when he wanted to agree, a voice called out before him. Yangqing, I was going to call you. You actually came to uni. Who is he? The owner of the voice saw Yi Mo on the side. This was a tall, handsome man, but he looked at Yi Mo with alert eyes as though feeling Yi Mo was a threat. Zhuo Yangqing looked awkwardly at Yi Mo on the side and turned to say, Qin Zun, what do you want? Qin Zun seemed to forget what he was going to say and stared at them in shock. Hearing Zhuo Yangqing's words, he reacted and immediately said, Yangqing, you still haven't said who he is. Zhuo Yangqing's face turned red and replied, Qin Zun, who do you think you are to me? Why do I need to report to you about my friend? You are my girlfriend. Qin Zun never would have thought Zhuo Yangqing would talk to him in such a manner and subconsciously said, You. Qin Zun, when did I say I was your girlfriend? Where did you hear that? Zhuo Yangqing seemed to be angered by his words. Qin Shu had been chasing her fiercely recently. She also had a good impression of him, but although she was interested, she never agreed to be his girlfriend. Although she knew that if this continued, then perhaps one day, she would be his girlfriend. But now that he said it, she was very angry. Qin Zun seemed to not expect Zhuo Yangqing would say this. Although they haven't had any solid development, she would rarely reject when he asked her out for food or a walk. Now, she brought a guy into the school and talked to her in this tone. Qin Zun was very sensitive to this, and his face was immediately bright red. Looking at Qin Zun, who acted like an angry rooster, Zhuo Yangqing sighed and lost all good impression of him. Zhuo Yangqing, you. Then why do you not reject every time I asked you out? Qin Zun's words attracted the gaze of the other students. Zhuo Yangqing's face was flustered. She didn't think Qin Zun was someone so impetuous. Looking at how more and more people were spectating, Zhuo Yangqing said apologetically to Yi Mo, Brother Yi, wait for me a bit, I'll deal with this issue. She didn't wait for Yi Mo's reply and said to Qin Zun, come with me. Yi Mo smiled. He found that most of the students spent their time on this. He thought about himself. He was about the same age as him, but he didn't even have enough time for cultivation. Perhaps different pursuit led to a different view on life. He didn't have the same pursuit as them. He thought about his pursuit and thought that perhaps he was the only one who had this pursuit in this world. At this instance, Yi Mo felt loneliness. Zhuo Yangqing worriedly looked back at Yi Mo and found that Yi Mo was still there waiting for her. Then, she gasped a sigh of relief, but she immediately felt this extremely lonely and bored sense from Yi Mo that made her lose herself for a moment. Seeing Zhuo Yangqing still look back after leaving with him, Qin Zun's face got worse. Although Yi Mo was very famous in Beijing, no one could really recognize him standing at the door of the uni. A high-heeled girl walked from the campus to a Porsche parked outside the gate. Just when she walked to it, a young man got off and helped her open the door. The moment the girl walked into the car, Yi Mo felt this girl was familiar. The car picking up Yi Ling today changed again. It's really good to be rich. A voice sounded beside Yi Mo and Yi Mo immediately realized that this girl was Yi Ling. At this moment, the Porsche had started. Yi Mo followed it without hesitation. The Porsche didn't go far off and stopped at an entertainment center 10 minutes later. Yi Mo frowned. Why did Yi Ling come there? Although Yi Mo didn't like Yi Ling that much, Yi Ling was still related to him by blood and he felt uncomfortable seeing her come here. He felt that a girl going to this sort of place didn't know self-love. Yi Mo followed but saw that people needed VIP cards at the door. Yi Mo knew he didn't have this. Seeing Yi Ling disappear in the stairway, Yi Mo used invisibility and went inside. Yi Ling and 2 men went into room 409 and the door was immediately closed. Yi Mo didn't go in and just followed with his spirit sense. There was already 2 men inside. Seeing Yi Ling come in, the man in the middle threw his cigarette into the ashtray and smiled. "Missy is really gorgeous." Yi Ling sat down and looked at the man who spoke. She spoke after a while. "Speak, what do you want this time?" The man lit up another cigarette and said slowly, "First, stay with me one night, and of course, you also need to stay with Brother Cheng one night. Second, there's a jade necklace in your house, I want." Before the man finished talking, Yi Ling stood up and said, "Keep dreaming." And she turned to leave. The man didn't stop her seeing her get up to leave and just said, "You know that the Yi family hopes your 2 brothers to die. Do you think there's a point going back to tell your family? I, Jiu Luo, am credible in my business. I'll tell you that if it wasn't for me, then that Yi Mo would have been killed ages ago. If you don't agree to my conditions, then that Yi Zifeng will be killed too. Oh, perhaps not killed, but that consequence, I believe you would understand. T, even if I die, I won't agree to your conditions." Yi Ling's face was looked bad. Clap clap okay, not bad. I love a little chili like you. Yi Mo, that bastard, killed people from the Song family, so I'll make his little sister pay under my crotch, haha. Young Master Cheng, you're here? Jiu Luo saw the clapping youth and immediately stood up as though not expecting he would suddenly appear. Song Xiaocheng, it's you. Yi Ling saw the person who just walked in was Song Xiaocheng and was shocked. She didn't think that Jiu Luo she went for help with was related to the Song family. But soon, Yi Ling quickly reacted and stared at Jiu Luo with hatred. "Jiu Luo, you knew Yi Lu, how are you the Song family's man? You cheated me and Yi Lu." Jiu Luo laughed and said, "Yi Lu, Fmph, you overestimate him. Is he worth me cheating? He's quick to suck up to me. I'll tell you, I've always been young Master Chen's men." Yi Lu, of course, knew it. "Yi Mo, that useless trash, is not worth us killing. But of course, when I was going to make a move, he had ran, otherwise, did you still think there would still be a Yi Mo in this world? You took so much of my money and made me do so much for you guys. How dare you lie to me? Jiu Luo, you animal." Yi Ling's face was pale with anger. At this moment, she realized how immature she was. She originally wanted to save the lives of her 2 brothers in secret, but didn't expect things to progress like this. You took so much of my money and made me do so much for you guys. How dare you lie to me? Jiu Luo, you animal. Yi Ling's face was pale with anger. At this moment, she realized how immature she was. She originally wanted to save the lives of her 2 brothers in secret, but didn't expect things to progress like this. Moreover, she pretended her relationship with her 2 brothers were very bad even to the degree of not talking to them. She was scared that her big uncle and 4th uncle would discover that she sided towards her 2 brothers, disabling her from entering the Yi family house anymore. If she couldn't, then the 3 brothers and sisters would completely become irrelevant people and disappear in the Yi family. She never even dared to bring up about Yi Mo in front of her grandpa or even help him say anything because she understood that although her grandpa liked her, it was because he liked her father. But grandpa hated the most when women talked about familial matters. That time, her second mum was forced to go do business in a faraway place by her grandpa because she was involved in her second uncle's matters. She even had to change her surname to the surname of her grandma. Ever since that, no woman in the Yi family dared to talk about family matters. Even if they didn't dare to let grandpa know. In fact, she didn't know that under the permission of her grandpa, her brother Yi Zifeng could participate in the family meetings. Jiu Luo was introduced to her by Yi Lu. Yi Lu was a part of the Yi family, and Yi Ling thought he wouldn't harm her. But she didn't expect that Yi Lu not only harmed her but also dared to harm the Yi family. She didn't know why Yi Lu would do this. Was he not scared of the family law? Thinking about the family law, Yi Ling shivered. She was clear that the things she did was no lighter than what Yi Lu did, perhaps even worse. Just her stealing the feng shui Dragon Ball would cause her to descend to hell if her grandpa knew. Yi Lu must be the same as her, He had things that Song Xiaochen could blackmail him with. However, she was willing. She didn't know if Yi Lu was the same. Yeah, you collected so much things about the Yi family and told me. You even stole 2 of the feng shui Dragon Balls and gave it to me. The Song family really should thank you. However, that old man really trusts you. Even Yi Lu couldn't enter the main house, but you can go in, Song Xiaochen sarcastically said. Looking at Yi Ling's pale face, Song Xiaochen slowly said, if you can bring me the Jade Buddha between the feng shui Dragon Ball and stay with me one night, then I'll pretend nothing happened and won't harm a finger of Yi Zifeng. If you disagree, then we have so many brothers here. I don't think you can take it all by yourself, hey. Of course, even if you serve us, you stealing the feng shui Dragon Ball would still accidentally reach Yi Beirong's ear. Yi Ling was shaking with anger. She only knew how stupid she was now. The more worried she was, the more clueless she was. She paid a big price for Jiyu Luo to secretly protect Yi Mo and Yi Zifeng, and even searched news of Song family trying to deal with Yi Mo. Now, it seemed all like a big joke. It would be fortunate if they didn't harm them, much less protect them. After experiencing these things, Yi Ling understood a lot, but she knew she understood too late. Let me go and I'll steal the Jade Buddha. Yi Ling recovered her composure. Although her body was still shaking, at least she calmed down on the surface. Ha ha ha. Song Xiaochen hysterically laughed. Do you think I have the same IQ as you? Of course I'll let you go, but we need to do our business first and get the recordings done. I believe you can leave then. But don't worry, we won't touch that Yi Mo. We'll only touch that Yi Zifeng. If you cooperate, perhaps we won't even touch Yi Zifeng. HMPH, rip off her clothes. Song Xiaochen feared the most when other people said Yi Mo could kill him. Many people knew Song Xiaoan died by Yi Mo's hand, and so did Song Xiaotan. Plus, the family meeting today and the order of the leader said no one should find trouble with Yi Mo. Although Song Xiaochen didn't know what happened, he knew that if Yi Mo really killed him, he would die in vain. His life in the Song family wasn't even worth 1% of Song Xiaotan, much less Song Xiaoan. The leader could let Yi Mo go after he killed them, much less him, Song Xiaochen. Who dares to rip her clothes? A cold voice suddenly echoed in the room. The people in the room didn't even see how the door was unlocked. The first to react wasn't Song Xiaochen and his men, but Yi Ling saw the young man standing at the door and was shocked. Although Yi Mo changed a lot, she still recognized it was him after a while. Yi Mo. Yi Ling blandly said in shock. Yi Mo nodded. Yi Ling. It was hard on you. You're right, if I can kill Song Xiaoan, I can also kill Song Xiaochen. Oh, you probably don't know that I also killed Song Xiaotan. You really are Yi Mo? In Yi Ling's impression, Yi Mo was a useless rich second generation and was extremely pretentious. The reason she could treat Yi Mo the same as Yi Zifeng was because her father's words before he died. She still remembered them till now. Ling Yi Mo is not welcomed, and he doesn't like studying himself. You and Zifeng need to look out for him. Don't let him be bullied. I'm guilty to him and his mother, don't let me die in unrest. Yi Ling remembered she cried as she agreed to her father's words. Then, her father slowly closed his eyes. But because of this Yi Mo, she suffered a lot. After her father died, he extravagantly spent money. It was all the money she saved up in hardship for him. The reason he could still stay in Ninghai University was because of the countless people she begged. Even when he was kicked out of the Yi family, Yi Ling's big uncle was still going to attack him. As such, she intentionally got close with her big uncle's side while intentionally distancing Yi Mo and Yi Zifeng. Yi Mo wasn't close with her to begin with, but she intentionally distanced herself with Yi Zifeng. That was so that when her big uncle attacked them, he could have some hesitation or perhaps could let her get some news. Not only this, she also sucked up to Yi Lu and knew the underground gangster Jiyu Luo through him. Jiyu Luo said he had connections in Ninghai as well, so she paid money to Jiyu Luo to protect Yi Mo because she was scared her big uncle and fourth uncle would still attack Yi Mo. Although she didn't know anything, but she heard that there was an instance when her grandpa got drunk and said on the table that her father was to be the next leader of the family and was prepared to give ownership of the assets to father. Then, her father's health grew worse, and his grandpa no longer mentioned it again. Yi Ling even suspected that her father's death was related to her big uncle, but she didn't dare to say and could only do her best to protect her two brothers. She tried to not take money from the family, and more than once reminded her brother not to take money from the family to avoid the killing intent of her big uncle. And when she saw Yi Mo today, she had the urge to cry. She felt wronged. Yi Zifeng and Yi Mo were both her elder brothers. But she, being the youngest of them all, had to do these things. And Yi Mo even lived a life that no one knew what he was doing behind everyone's back. I am Yi Mo. Seeing Yi Ling's eyes red, Yi Mo just told Yi Ling he was Yi Mo and didn't talk. He just stared coldly at Song Xiaochen. You are Yi Mo. Song Xiaochen said this word by word. Jiyu Luo had already stood beside Song Xiaochen. If someone else suddenly entered the room, they would have already gone up and beat them up. However, they've also heard about Yi Mo. It was said that even Hu Qiu died in his hands. Also, Jiyu Luo wasn't bad, but he was a far cry from Hu Qiu. The two men beside Jiyu Luo wanted to abduct Yi Ling. Yi Ling was still looking at Yi Mo as if in disbelief of Yi Mo's change. This Yi Mo in front of her was too different from the Yi Mo in her memories. The Yi Mo in her memories would only make her feel annoyed and disgust. She didn't want to see him at all. But the Yi Mo in front of her emitted great confidence. Just standing there made people feel as if he was the only person in the room that could decide on things. Moreover, as soon as Yi Mo came, Song Xiaochen immediately became silent. His face was even showing expressions of worry. Yi Ling suddenly felt a strong sense of safety. It was as though only Yi Mo like this was her real big brother. She subconsciously wanted to walk towards Yi Mo when two frosty winds shot past her face. Yi Ling subconsciously looked back and the two men behind her had fallen down. She thought her courage was pretty bold before, but now that she saw two men fall down in front of her with blood seeping out of their foreheads, she wanted to scream and dash into Yi Mo's arms without thinking. Yi Mo patted the shaking Yi Ling and sighed. Life was really hard on her. She was really scared but still gritted her teeth and dealt with people like Jiyu Luo. In fact, no matter what deal she made, she couldn't escape her eventual death. Even if Jiyu Luo wasn't Song Xiaochen's man, he would still kill Yi Ling eventually to keep her mouth shut and prevent revenge by the Yi family. Other than Jiyu Luo's side, Yi Ling would still die if the Yi family knew what Yi Ling did. Yi Mo, I know you're really powerful. If you just let me go, I'm willing to give back the Dragon Balls and other things. Song Xiaochen seemed to be reminding himself that Yi Mo didn't dare to kill him now, and he needed to stay calm. But when the words got to his mouth, he was already shaking. Chapter 141, Black-Hearted Song Xiaochen. Chapter 141, Black-Hearted Song Xiaochen. Yi Ling felt a fit of comfort for no reason after hearing Song Xiaochen's words. Although she was of the Yi family and looked like a princess, only she knew the hardship within. She needed to put on a happy face when she went home and needed to ridicule Yi Zifeng. That wasn't all, she even needed to secretly use the money she saved and stole to ask Jiyu Luo for help. Today, it was her first time seeing her opponent act low in front of her. She even forgot the disgust when Yi Mo killed. You want me to let you go? Yi Mo looked at Song Xiaochen and blandly said. Yes, as long as you are willing to have mercy, I will pay you back 10 times. Hearing Yi Mo's tone soften, Song Xiaochen said hurriedly. He's called Jiyu Luo? This name is really strange and I detest this guy. Yi Mo looked once at Jiyu Luo. Hearing Yi Mo's words, Song Xiaochen's eyes suddenly turned cold and pulled out a small 3-edged prick from somewhere and just stabbed it onto Jiyu Luo's back without hesitation. When the prick was fully submerged, Jiyu Luo then turned around and looked at Song Xiaochen in disbelief. He pointed with his finger wanting to say something, but he couldn't. He just looked with fury as he fell to the ground. Perhaps he couldn't understand why he would die in Song Xiaochen's hands after serving him for so long. Yi Mo thought that this Song Xiaochen was a cruel character. He actually knew where to pierce so that one would die the quickest. It definitely wasn't his first time doing this. Yi Ling looked at Jiyu Luo fall to the ground with massive amount of blood emerging from his back like a spring, and she finally couldn't take it as she fainted in Yi Mo's arms. Young Master Chen, Jiyu Luo's 2 henchmen, looked at Song Xiaochen and couldn't believe that he would kill his most trusted man. They didn't know if they should attack Song Xiaochen or still be on the same team with him. Just when the two were still hesitating, Song Xiaochen already charged over and killed another. The remaining one reacted, and when Song Xiaochen stabbed towards him, he actually pulled out a knife and stabbed it into Song Xiaochen's left shoulder. Although Song Xiaochen was injured, it wasn't lethal. Plus, the damage of the knife was far from that of the prick. The man holding the knife was killed, but Song Xiaochen could still stand up and looked worriedly at Yi Mo. Yi Mo looked coldly at Song Xiaochen. He killed without any moral burden, and he was killing his trusted men. His actions were swift without any hesitation. It could be seen that not only was he cruel but also had some power. When he was talking to him before, he still seemed shaky, but Yi Mo would never believe him. Song Xiaochen was obviously acting, but he acted too much. Regardless whether he was acting or not, Yi Mo wouldn't let this guy go. "Brother Yi, I've already done as you told and killed these few people you don't like." Then Song Xiaochen took out a bag from his pocket and said, "This is the Yi family's feng shui Dragon Balls. I only told Yi Ling to get 2. Song Xiaochen walked to a chair with pale face and put the bag on the chair. Although his shoulder was bleeding heavily, but he didn't seem to notice it. Instead, he opened the bag and said, "I'll show it to you." Yi Mo just stared coldly at Song Xiaochen. He was very smart and cunning, but Yi Mo had already seen the evil in his eyes with his spirit sense. Even if he didn't, he knew that Song Xiaochen's actions were abnormal. His hand was already so heavily injured, but he didn't stop the bleeding and instead was going to open up the bag. If it really was the Dragon Balls inside, he could have just given it to him. Thinking about this, Yi Mo scanned the bag with his spirit sense. At this moment, however, Song Xiaochen pulled out a gun from the bag with unimaginable speed. At the same time, his gun was already pointed at Yi Mo. This was all done in less than 2 seconds. Song Xiaochen had a lot of faith in his gun prowess and his speed was very fast. The gun was pointed at Yi Mo's head. He didn't think Yi Mo could still live after getting shot in the head. Even if Yi Mo was a disciple of ancient martial arts, he wouldn't be able to dodge this. Thinking that he was about to kill Yi Mo, Song Xiaochen was excited. He could almost already see the leader of the Song families praise him, and that the first in the 3rd generation title would be his. But in the spur of a moment, Song Xiaochen didn't have this thought anymore. He just looked at Yi Mo, who stared at him with cold eyes as though a monkey being stupid. At the tip between his fingers was a bullet. Yi Mo noticed Song Xiaochen's actions as soon as he took the gun out of the bag. The moment Song Xiaochen fired, Yi Mo used his spirit kai to form a force field, and the bullet was slowed down. That way, Yi Mo caught the bullet easily. Even if he fired when Yi Mo wasn't ready, although Yi Mo wouldn't be able to catch the bullet, he would still be able to dodge it. Song Xiaochen seemed like he saw a ghost and made a sound after a long while. You can catch a bullet, he was dumbfounded. This was the first time he met someone who could catch bullet. No one would believe it. Seeing Song Xiaochen's worried look, Yi Mo sneered. "Don't worry, I won't kill you now." Then, the bullet in his hand dropped to the floor in a clank. Song Xiaochen's heart skipped. Although he was still on the edge, he gradually calmed down after hearing Yi Mo's words. Of course, Yi Mo wouldn't kill Song Xiaochen now. Although he could and knew the Song family wouldn't do anything to him, he was just scared that if the Song family was infuriated and fought with him, then Dong Fangshi's prediction would quite possibly come true. If Yi Mo and the Song family fought, no matter how he beat up the Song family, he would only have one choice, and that was to leave the country. In Yi Mo's perspective, even if he was to fight the Song family, he couldn't do it overtly. He could make them feel scared, but he couldn't force them into a corner. He could kill Jiu Luo and his henchmen, but he couldn't kill Song Xiaochen now. He still needed to do the after work for the business in the room. Yi Mo believed that Song Xiaochen didn't dare to make it known, and neither did the Song family. Plus, this was Beijing, not the borderlands. It was fine to kill at the borderlands but not in Beijing. Now that so many died in the room, and despite most of them were killed by Song Xiaochen, someone needed to take care of the aftermath. It was better to leave Song Xiaochen to do that. Yi Mo wasn't an idiot. He had arrived at Beijing for more than a day and still didn't receive any attacks or threats. That meant the Song family was holding themselves back. Perhaps what happened in China had already reached the Song family. Yi Mo would definitely not believe that the Song family didn't know he arrived at Beijing, because when he came, he just waltzed right in. Yi Mo patted his hand and took out the 2 Dragon Balls and looked. He couldn't help but to shake his head. It was just 2 normal magic artifacts with a sliver of spirit Kai. Song Xiaochen looked at Yi Mo and didn't dare to move. He now understood why the leader ordered not to touch Yi Mo. He was too scary, no wonder he could kill Hu Qiu. Yi Mo looked at Song Xiaochen and patted his shoulder. Song Xiaochen felt as though a big metal hammer whacked his heart a few times. That pressure made him faint. After burning away the bodies in the room, Song Xiaochen woke up again and found that all the bodies had disappeared. There was just some bloodstains and burnt smell. He didn't know how long he was out for, but he knew it wasn't long. Yi Mo had dealt with the bodies in such a short time, and Song Xiaochen suddenly felt his body was cold. This was why Yi Mo couldn't be touched. Do you know why I didn't kill you? Yi Mo looked at Song Xiaochen, who had a spookily pale face, and said. Song Xiaochen subconsciously shook his head. Yi Mo smiled. Take care of this place, and perhaps after a few days, you would understand why I didn't kill you. Oh, and tell your leader this, don't piss me off. Piss me off and I'll make the Song family disappear in one night. Then, Yi Mo carried the still unconscious Yi Ling and actually jumped out of the window. Song Xiaochen looked at Yi Mo disappear and now realized his life was saved. He looked at Yi Mo jump to the window and was shocked once again. This was 4th story. But he soon knew that it was time to clean up. Thinking about this, Song Xiaochen didn't even have time to dress his wound and just called the family straight away. Just when Yi Mo didn't know where to take Yi Ling woke up. She saw Yi Mo carrying her and made a small struggle. Yi Mo put her down. Yi Ling stared at Yi Mo for a while before remembered what happened before. Her face was full of worry. Yi Mo murdered someone, and she saw it with her own eyes. What to do? Yi Ling didn't even get time to ask how Yi Mo came to Beijing and just looked at him and said worriedly, hurry up and run now, you killed the Song family's man, they won't let you go. Go now. Chapter 142, Brother and Sister. Chapter 142, Brother and Sister. Yi Mo saw that Yi Ling wanted him to run and felt touched. Although the things Yi Ling did was very naive, her intent was to save Yi Mo and Yi Zifeng. From that perspective, she did suffer many hardships. Yi Mo knew that Yi Ling didn't like him, but why did she still do so much for him? Yi Mo suddenly raised his hand, touched Yi Ling's hair and sighed. Stupid, if I leave now, you would be dead. Don't worry. Since I can kill Song Xiaochen and still have nothing happen, nothing will happen now. Plus, I didn't kill Song Xiaochen. Yi Ling felt weird after being touched by Yi Mo. A faint sense of being cared for circulated her heart. She had never been cared for. Even her brother Yi Zifeng always complained that she was too immature. But now, she had this feeling. Her fatigued heart seemed to have something to depend on. She suddenly wanted to lay in Yi Mo's arms and call him Big Brother, but at the same time, she felt distant with the Yi Mo in front of her compared to the original Yi Mo. The two sunk into silence, but Yi Ling soon reacted. She thought about Yi Mo's safety and hurried, you didn't kill Song Xiaochen? Then if he calls the cops on you, where will you go? Even if he doesn't call the cops, the Song family knows you're in Beijing, you still wouldn't be able to escape. What shall we do? Yi Mo smiled. Don't worry, the Song family doesn't dare to look for me now. Nothing will happen tomorrow. Yi Mo saw things clearly. Since he came to Beijing and the Song family didn't look for him, then they wouldn't look for him now. Even if they were to, it would be after they've completely investigated the situation. If Song Jiaming knew he could come back safely from the Nanqing's HQ and still look for trouble with him without any reason, then the Song family wouldn't be still alive today. Yi Ling looked at Yi Mo in a daze. She didn't know why Yi Mo said the Song family didn't dare to look for him. She also knew that Yi Mo wasn't the same as before. Although Yi Mo didn't kill Song Xiaochen, he still left a time bomb on him. Song Xiaochen didn't have long to live. Yi Mo thought that after he left Beijing, the Song family wouldn't be able to do anything to him, but they could attack Yi Ling and Yi Zifeng. Thinking about this, Yi Mo felt like he had a headache. Now, he didn't dare to overtly eradicate the Song family. Since he couldn't, he needed to worry about this. Seeing that Yi Mo was in thought, Yi Ling said, "Where would you stay tonight?" Yi Ling wanted to call him brother but couldn't. The original Yi Mo had too much of a bad impression in her mind. Yi Mo came back from his thought and decided he would think about it later. Now that Yi Ling asked, he said, "I have a place to live, what about you? I'll send you back." I'm living at campus." Yi Ling wanted to ask how Yi Mo had been, but didn't know where to start. Plus, she saw the ordinary clothes on him and knew he wasn't living a wealthy life. Perhaps he was even living a desolate life. She was scared that if she asked, Yi Mo would be sad. She didn't know where he got his powers from, but eventually, she couldn't resist and asked. Yi Mo didn't know where to start, so he simply described his life and didn't mention him going to the desert and being hunted. These things were too distant with Yi Ling's life. He didn't want Yi Ling to be worried. From Yi Ling, Yi Mo heard that Yi Zifeng had been very busy recently, but Yi Ling didn't know why. Yi Zifeng barely discussed such things with Yi Ling. The two walked as they talked and came back to Hua Uni. At the door, Yi Mo remembered Zhuo Yangqing. He looked around and Zhuo Yangqing was long gone. "Go back to the dorms first, I'm going. Tomorrow, find Zifeng, we need to talk." Yi Mo sent Yi Ling to the door. He wanted to go scout at the Song family. If the Song family decided to shatter the glass and fight him, he needs to be prepared. "Come inside and have a seat." Seeing Yi Mo was going, Yi Ling couldn't resist to say. She still had a lot of things she wanted to talk about, plus, Yi Mo changed too much that made her feel dependent on him. At the moment, she actually didn't want him to leave. Yi Mo hesitated and saw the males are forbidden sign. Although he also went to uni at Ning High, he had never been to the female dorms. Now that the weather was getting warmer, it didn't seem appropriate to go into the female dorms. Yi Ling saw Yi Mo's gaze and knew he was worrying he couldn't go in, so she hurried to say, "It's okay, the Hima at the door is very nice to me, she'll definitely let you in. Plus, all of the girls in my dorm aren't here tonight. They are going to a social with Shiyuni." Originally, Yi Mo didn't worry about going in, he had too many ways to, but he was just worried it would affect others. Now that Yi Ling said this, he wanted to go in and see too. He just wanted to see if he could set up a simple defense formation there. And, he wanted to talk to Yi Ling. If she didn't want to stay in Beijing, she could go to Luokang. It was just as Yi Ling said, the auntie at the door just looked once at Yi Mo and didn't stop him from going in. Yi Ling's dorm was closed and it was pitch black. Yi Ling was right, the girls weren't back. Yi Mo habitually scanned his spirit sense out and was immediately shocked. There were still 3 people inside the dorm. Just when Yi Mo wanted to tell Yi Ling that, Yi Ling had opened the door and said, "Come in, there's no one inside." Before Yi Ling finished speaking, the light was opened, scaring Yi Ling. In the middle of the table was a big cake. The 3 girls saw Yi Ling come in and all yelled, "Happy birthday, Ling." However, the 3 soon saw Yi Mo behind her and yelled in surprise. One of the girl who just wore shorts quickly took a pair of pants and put them on. "You guys," Yi Ling was shocked at the scene in front of her. One of the taller-looking girl reacted and said, "Lingzi, didn't think you would be celebrating your birthday with your boyfriend. We still wanted to give you a surprise. Hee, hurry up and introduce him, he's really handsome." Yi Ling just remembered that today was her birthday, she was so busy that she forgot. She couldn't help but feel grateful to her dorm mates for preparing this for her. She immediately said, "Xiao Dan, Lulu, Tianhe, thank you guys so much, you remembered my birthday. Eat the cake later, Lulu is right, introduce your boyfriend. We can't wait. This is the first time you brought your boyfriend back," that short-haired girl also said. "You guys are mistaken, this isn't my boyfriend." Yi Ling waved her hand. "Fut. You brought him back and you even said no one's here, you can come in. Did you think we didn't hear it? Do you think we're third wheeling? Don't worry, after you introduce, we can give you guys some space. Hima just called to say you're back, but she never said you brought a boyfriend," the short-haired girl said. Yi Mo touched his nose awkwardly. He didn't think Yi Ling's classmates were all back, and today was Yi Ling's birthday. It seemed he couldn't tell her about going to Luokang today. And, Yi Ling's friends were all wearing casual clothes. It wasn't convenient for him to stay here. Yi Mo could only say, "How about I go first? We can talk tomorrow." Yi Ling also knew that Yi Mo probably had some things to discuss with her, but now he couldn't say it. She could only nod her head. Why are you leaving? You just came in. Today is Yi Ling's birthday, you're not even helping her celebrate it. At least leave after eating the cake or introduce yourself. And you still need to invite us to dinner tomorrow. That girl wearing shorts finally dropped the awkwardness and said. Dan was seen in her undies, of course she needed someone to compensate her with food now, haha, that short-haired girl said immediately. Yi Mo felt more awkward, he didn't even remember Yi Ling's birthday as her brother, while Yi Ling's dorm mates remembered it. He thought about Su Jingwen's birthday. They both came from big families. Why was Yi Ling's birthday so different to Su Jingwen's? The Yi family was much bigger than the Su family. Thinking about this, Yi Mo felt bitter. Perhaps Yi Ling really had been enduring a lot of hardship these years. Seeing Yi Mo stand silently at the door, Yi Ling thought Yi Mo was thinking about her life and said, "Brother, I don't care that much about my birthday, as long as you and Ziffing is fine, everything is good. Go back first, I'll come look for you tomorrow." Yi Ling hugged Yi Mo after. It was the first time she called Yi Mo brother, but she didn't feel it to be weird at all. Perhaps she would no longer have to live that worrying life. At least, Yi Mo was so much better than she had thought. She felt Yi Mo's hug was very firm and warm, giving her a sense of security from the bottom of her heart. Chapter 143, Helpless Song Chimming. Chapter 143, Helpless Song Chimming. That brother made Yi Mo freeze mentally. Ever since coming to this world, it was destined that he would be lonely. But today, someone called him brother. This indescribable feeling flowed through Yi Mo's heart that made him decide to protect Yi Ling for her life. Not for anything else, but just for that brother. Ayo, so emotional. Lingzi, you really make people cringe. But your boyfriend is quite handsome, I also want to hug your brother. Don't be stingy, the short-haired girl said. Of course she was joking, she didn't really mean to go hug Yi Mo. Yi Ling really enjoyed Yi Mo's hug, and hearing what the short-haired girl said, she suddenly smiled and pulled the short-haired girl's hand and dragged her into Yi Mo's arms. She moved aside. Okay Tian He, you can hug for however long you want. I won't be jealous at all. But, don't let go. Tian He was pulled into Yi Mo's arms. Yi Mo wanted to push her away, but was scared he would hurt her feelings. Meanwhile, Tian He thought it was just a hug, so she wrapped her arms around Yi Mo's waist. Yi Mo didn't feel anything when he was hugged by Yi Ling, but he didn't expect Tian He to hug him with such force. He immediately felt two balls of softness in front of her chest and that faint aroma of a girl. His blood speed up, and he had a biological reaction. His crotch immediately rammed against Tian He's stomach. He was originally planning to eat a piece of cake, but he hurriedly said, "I'm going." Then, he rushed out of the dorms and disappeared. What's wrong, Tian He? Why did you scare Ling's boyfriend away? Is it because your chest is too powerful? When Yi Mo left, the two other girls came up and teased her. Tian He's face was shot red. Although she was acting tough, it was just in her words. However, when the other two girls asked, she recovered and smiled. Ling, your boyfriend's thing is so big. I could feel it. What a man. But I still quite like his hug, he smells very nice. What? You really felt that? It's really big. To their surprise, Yi Ling asked Tian He with a face full of joy. Tian He was grabbed by Yi Ling, but this was nothing. When Yi Ling asked that question, the dorm mates were completely shocked. Hey, Lingzi, are you dumb? How can you not know your boyfriend's thing? Why are you asking me? But your boyfriend is really excellent. Sigh, I don't know where you found him. Why don't I have that kind of luck? Tian He also had a boyfriend but was never like Yi Mo, who could give her a refreshing and calm sense during hugs. Okay, we really admire you too. Next time when Lingzi's boyfriend comes, I also want to hug him, the taller girl said. And me, Dan hurried to say. Tian He threw up the finger, / you two cougars, but Lingzi, even if it's really big, you don't need to be so happy. You'll be taking in quite a load. However, Yi Ling murmured, it was indeed a lie. She was thinking about Yimo's diagnosis. It was fake. If he didn't say it today, she would have thought it was real. Now, it seemed that the DNA test was also fake. Her big uncle did this. At this moment, she only felt happy because Yimo had completely changed. Although it was very late, the lights were still on at the Song family. Even Song Xiaochen was in the family meeting. Yimo's guess was right. The Song family didn't dare to fight Yimo at all costs. Song Chiming was very careful. Before he understood Yimo's trump card, he didn't dare to move. If Yimo really could enter a heavily guarded place like the Nanqing HQ, then it would be all too easy for him to kill everyone in the Song family, especially how Yimo did things without thinking the consequences. Thinking about their conflict with Yimo, Song Chiming's face was very bad. It was too embarrassing for such a powerful family to not be able to touch Yimo. If it was someone else or even a gang, the Song family could get rid of them easily. Xiaochen, did you just say in the blink of an eye, all the bodies in the room disappeared? He could even catch a bullet. Song Hai needed to be clear on this. He had been responsible for the intel of the family. This was the first time he heard of such a capability of Yimo, and that meant he didn't do his job well. Yes, Uncle Hai, I didn't say a single lie. He could really stop the bullet with 2 fingers. My pistol is the Howard PPK. You should know its speed, but he caught it with his finger. Plus, I'm sure I wasn't out for more than 5 minutes. When I woke up, nothing changed except the bodies have disappeared. Song Xiaochen still felt fear when saying this. Song Chiming looked with one eye towards Song Hai and wanted to ask about Psi-Na, but remembered that he just sent out the order today, so things shouldn't be this fast. Song Hai's heart was skipping. Although the leader didn't say anything, he knew that he hadn't been able to find out a lot of Yimo's powers. He didn't do his job properly. He had made up his mind to increase the intensity of the research in Psi-Na. He couldn't make a mistake again. Seeing Song Hai's expression, Song Chiming didn't pay more attention to him. He turned his head and asked Song Xiaochen, what else did he say? Song Xiaochen looked worriedly at Song Chiming's furious face and answered after some hesitation, when he left, he told me to bring back a message. He said don't piss him off, if we do, he will make the Song family disappear in one night. And, when he left, he carried Yi Ling and jumped from the 4th floor. What? Song Chiming obviously heard it, but he exclaimed in shock. If Yimo could jump off by himself, he wouldn't be so shocked. But carrying a person and jumping off the 4th floor, this was absurd. Just when everyone thought the leader would be angry by Yimo's threat, Song Chiming calmed down instead. He started to contemplate, and after a while, he looked at Song Chikan and said, Chikan, what do you think? Song Chikan frowned and said, according to Yimo's habits and what Xiaochen reported, if Yimo said that, it means he can really do it. My opinion is to wait for the result of the Psi-Na investigation. After we know Yimo's limits, then we can make a move. Plus, if we are to move, we can't do it alone. We need to invite some people. Of course, we must also notify Hu Qiu's master. Song Chiming nodded. This is what I think too. Okay, that's it for today. When the investigation comes out, we'll have another meeting. But before this, if anyone dares to look for trouble with Yimo or someone related to him, I won't let him go. Dismissed. Yimo left Tsinghua University and prepared to look for a place to stay when his phone rang. It was Li Hu. He was very happy when he knew that Yimo came to Beijing. He just said he was busy in the day and his phone was shut. Yimo just said a location when his phone shut down. He hadn't charged this phone, and it just answered 2 phone calls before running out of battery. Now, Yimo still hadn't ate yet. Originally, Zhuo Yangqing wanted to invite him to dinner, but due to Qing Zun's things, Zhuo Yangqing didn't have the time to redeem it, so Yimo went to look for Yi Ling Li, who came very quickly and drove a normal jeep. As soon as he got off, he grabbed Yimo's hands excitedly. Brother Yi, if it wasn't for you last time, we would have probably died, much less retrieve the item. I've been waiting for days, and you're finally here. Let's go. You should sleep at my place tonight. You must come to my base with me tomorrow. Those brats keep saying I'm bragging. You need to help me teach them a lesson. Li Hu was straightforward and very social, and he already saw Yimo as his friend. Yi Mo could tell that this guy had been bragging about him in front of others, but they couldn't find him, so his words were ignored. Yi Mo smiled. He didn't have the time to help Li Hu show off. He just wanted to get his money and solve the problems here so he could go back to cultivate. The more people he got into conflict with, the more he felt his power was insignificant. From Lang Ji's mouth, Yi Mo heard that Xian Daoist in Metal River was much stronger than Wu Qiong. Moreover, it was said that he was about to break through. If things were really as Lang Ji said, then his powers would only seem overwhelming to normal people, but for the real strong people out there, he was still missing a bit. Thinking about this, how could Yi Mo have the mood to show off in front of normal soldiers? Chapter 144, Big Bluff. Chapter 144, Big Bluff. Li Hu stayed at the intense training quarters at Beijing. That's not what Yi Mo expected. The defense here was serious, and there were surveillance equipment everywhere. If Li Hu didn't take him in, it would really make him sweat to come in. Plus, Yi Mo didn't know if his invisibility could evade the top-grade military cameras. And Li Hu was indeed a good friend. He didn't even investigate who Yi Mo was before bringing him in. He knew the rules, but he still did so, meaning that he considered Yi Mo a true friend. Li Hu got some food and ate as they chatted together. Yi Mo also knew this place was to train all sorts of special ops. This period, it was his turn. He was the captain of the Flying Fox squad. Li Hu wasn't called Li Hu before, but after he joined Flying Fox, he changed his name. One could tell that he had deep feelings for this squad just from his name. Then Flying Fox is the country's top special ops? Yi Mo curiously asked. If that really was the case, then Yi Mo would be disappointed. Although he hadn't seen Li Hu in action, but he was at most the same level as Wen Dong, or even worse. Since he was the captain, it meant that he was the strongest in Flying Fox. If even the strongest was at this standard, then the squad wasn't going to be very strong. Li Hu didn't know Yi Mo's power. In his eyes, Yi Mo was mysterious other than being straightforward. He went in and out of the desert with ease, so he knew Yi Mo was much stronger than him. Now that Yi Mo asked, Li Hu shook his head. Our squad is a far cry from the best. However, the members of Flying Fox are pretty excellent. You have seen our missions. In harsher words, we're police. In other words, we deal with the more serious criminals. Then, Li Hu took out a card and gave it to Yi Mo. This is the money. It's supposed to be $500,000, but because the thing was perfectly fine and no men were lost, my boss gave an extra $100,000. Altogether it's $600,000, the password is all zero. Of course, I know that this is just as Feng Tian said, less than 10% of its actual worth. So Yi brother, I owe you. Yi Mo took the card and smiled. If I didn't sell that to you, perhaps I would have thrown it away. It's free money I earned, no need to say anything else. He didn't lie. When he was being hunted by the insects, he even threw his bag away. He definitely wouldn't have left this small model that he didn't know with him. Luckily, he gave it to Li Hu, or his $600,000 would have been gone. Li Hu didn't think Yi Mo would throw away something so important and thought Yi Mo was just being polite. He admired Yi Mo more for his generosity. Brother Yi, there's also someone called Yi Mo in Beijing, and he's from the Yi family, but it said he was kicked out of the Yi family. Haha, if that Yi Mo had 10% of your excellence, that Yi old man would have treated him like the future of the Yi family. Li Hu and Yi Mo chatted for a while. He felt Yi Mo was very open, and soon thought of him as a friend, so he talked casually. Yi Mo smiled. I'm that Yi Mo you're talking about. But I'm not as powerful as you say. Treat me like the future of the Yi family. I don't care, much less they won't. Li Hu looked at Yi Mo in shock. He didn't think that the person in front of him was the abandoned son of that Yi family. Zhuo Yangqing was annoyed. One was because Yi Mo went against his word and didn't wait for her at the door of the school, and another was due to Qing Zun. The more she thought, the angrier she got. It was just 10 minutes' time, and the doctor she had longed for was gone. So this morning, she came to the door of Tsinghua University and wanted to see if she could wait for Yi Mo. If she couldn't, then she would ask Yi Ling and see if Yi Mo came for her. What made her angrier was Yi Mo didn't arrive, But the person she didn't want to see the most was here. Qing Zun had some flowers and walked over, guiltily saying, "Young Qing, it was my bad yesterday, I'm sorry. Please accept my apology, these flowers are for you." Zhuoyang Qing looked contemptuously at Qing Zun. "Who do you think you are to apologize to me? I'm telling you, from today on, I don't know you. If I go against my words, let the heavens destroy me, piss off." Zhuoyang Qing was so angry that her fire could burn a lake dry, but Qing Zun had to come and piss her off. If it wasn't for him, then perhaps she would have invited Yi Mo. Now, she lost news of Yi Mo, and her grandpa was in danger. Even she couldn't forgive herself, much less a mere Qing Zun. Moreover, she had already warned him not to look for her, but today, this guy came right in the morning. She thought about how something that could be done in 2 minutes was dragged on for more than 10 minutes by Qing Zun. In the end, all it came to was a discord, and she even missed Yi Mo. Although Yi Mo said he was Yi Ling's brother, who knew if he would stay in Beijing. Everyone knew Yi Ling looked down on Yi Mo. If he left Beijing again, she would not even have a place to cry to. Hearing Zhuoyang Qing's words, Qing Zun's face turned pale. He didn't expect Zhuoyang Qing to say such determined words. This essentially severed any intentions he could have for her. He really didn't want to give up the second most prettiest girl in Beijing. "Young Qing, you actually said such words. Who was that guy yesterday? You're being so heartless with me over him," Qing Zun said with hatred. "CKU, who is he to me? What's that got to do with you? He's my boyfriend, so what? Are you going to kill me? Don't appear in front of my eyes again." Then, Zhuoyang Qing turned to leave. She wanted to go to the dorms and ask Yi Ling. Although she didn't know Yi Ling well, they heard of each other. After all, in the uni, she was ranked second, and Yi Ling was ranked third in terms of beauty. Qing Zun's face was green and stared coldly at Zhuoyang Qing as evil flashed across his eyes. In the morning when Yi Mo and Li Hu came to the training base, there were nearly 100 people already training. Yi Mo looked at these flying fox members. They were indeed not bad but still very immature to Yi Mo. However, it was quite decent they could achieve this in a training ground. "Yi Mo, how about you have a few rounds with them?" Li Hu saw Yi Mo's smile as he looked at these members, so he said. "Captain Li, is this the mysterious hero you keep telling us about?" A sturdy youth came up in front of Yi Mo and said challengingly. Li Hu looked at the youth and had an evil smile on his face. "Yeah, Lu Gang, do you want to fight him?" "Of course I do." Lu Gang was up for the challenge. He hoped for an immediate match, so the whole squad would know his power. Lu Gang believed that he wouldn't lose even if he fought against Li Hu, much less a youth who looked scholarly. He was going to defeat Yi Mo and then say to Li Hu, "Captain, your eyes are very good." Yi Mo smiled. Of course, he wasn't going to be so bored and fight these people. These people weren't even 1/10 as strong as Hu Qiu. He really had no interest in fighting them. Seeing Li Hu look over, Yi Mo said, "I don't want to fight, they are no match for me, even if they all come at once. It's boring for me as well." Yi Mo didn't need to be humble, he was indeed saying the truth. Lu Gang heard Yi Mo's words, and his face was bright red. He didn't think Yi Mo would be so rude and just say he was no match for him. Not only this, he also said that the 100 of them was also no match for him. This was way too arrogant. Great bluff. Before Lu Gang had time to say more, someone interrupted. "Elder Han, how are you here?" Lu Gang saw the person coming and quickly greeted with a face full of respect. Yi Mo also saw the people who came. There were 5 of them. The leader was an old man in his 60s. 2 police guards followed him. Other than that, there was a man in his 30s and a girl in her 20s. The man who said he was bluffing was the man in his 30s. He scanned across Yi Mo contemptuously. Yi Mo sneered. He could tell the man was not bad, but at most, he was only a little stronger than Hu Qiu but still no match for him. However, that girl seemed weak, but she gave Yi Mo a much greater threat than that man. This made Yi Mo give the girl a closer look. She looked very quiet and not too pretty but durable to look at. However, Yi Mo soon knew that she was durable to look at due to the art she was cultivating. This woman wasn't simple, perhaps she came from the hidden sects. Ever since these few people came out, almost everyone saluted to the old man. Only Yi Mo did nothing. The man looked more unhappy. You are Yi Mo? The one who helped Li Hu find the model? Elder Han asked. Yi Mo answered, yes, I'm Yi Mo. I sold the data to Li Hu, I didn't specially go help him find it. Chapter 145, Winnings of the Battle. Chapter 145, Winnings of the Battle. Elder Han laughed. Yi Mo, you don't need to be humble. The money you took wasn't even enough for 10% of its real worth, so I can represent the country to thank you. You've contributed greatly to the military. Yi Mo smiled and didn't reply. He didn't have that kind of resolve. If someone gave a higher price than Li Hu and he didn't mind that person, he wouldn't have hesitated to sell it to someone else. Seeing Yi Mo not reply, Li Hu quickly said, Elder Han was one of the commanders in the Beijing military district, he's a lieutenant. Yi Mo, Elder Han already heard Li Hu's words and waved his hand. I've heard from Li Hu of Yi Mo's power in the desert. I heard from people that you were buying a phone in the market yesterday, and I knew you would come looking for Li Hu. Today, I came just to see you. You should be Wentian's son, right? Sigh, Wentian was supposed to be doing great things, but he left too early. Things were really harsh on you and your siblings. Yi Mo heard this and had some good impression to this Elder Han. If somebody said this to him yesterday, he wouldn't feel anything, but after seeing how Yi Ling was, he knew how hard things were for her these years. Elder Han is too polite. I should be the going to see you. How can you be visiting me? Yi Mo greeted. Elder Han nodded. I've heard about your things, but Beirong and Yuanyi are my old companions. This time, Beirong really looked wrong. You are like your father, Wentian, an elite. You're even better than Wentian. Sigh, this time, Ning Fusion looked wrong too. Then, he shook his head. Elder Han's name was Han Zixin, one of the commanding officers at Beijing military district. Although he had retired now, he was responsible for a few special ops squads. Flying Fox was one of them. It was also the most famous squad. Flying Snow was also under his command. Yi Mo knew who Beirong and Yuanyi was. It should be the leader of the Yi family, Yi Beirong, and the eldest of the Song family, Song Yuanyi. As for that Ning Fusion, he was probably from the Ning family. After sighing for a while, Elder Han said once again, Yi Mo, if you want to come to my special ops, I can let you go to Flying Snow, that's where the best in the country are gathered. I believe you can step higher at Flying Snow Squad. Plus, if you came to Flying Snow, I'm willing to help you with your issues with the Yi and Song family. Although Li Hu didn't know Yi Mo was from the Yi family, it didn't mean that Han Zixin didn't know. He wasn't too sure either until someone reported to him yesterday. He was reported that Yi Mo came to Beijing yesterday and bought a phone at the supermarket. He immediately came to see what Yi Mo wanted. He wanted to see why this proclaimed human scum, Yi Mo, was so excellent in Li Hu's mouth. And how could he have such enmity with the Song family? Plus, he gave such an important military data so easily. Now that he saw Yi Mo's composed and calm manner as well as his strong confidence and defined features, Han Zixin wanted to take him in for his talent. Although, the main thing was due to Yi Mo bringing back the data and donated it to the country, he also wanted to compensate Yi Mo in another way. As for Yi Mo's power, Han Zixin thought it wasn't bad, but it was just the same level as Li Hu. Although he was a talent, but not to the stage where Han Zixin must have him. But even so, he realized how terrifying gossip can be. Yi Mo was no human scum. The manner in which he faced him without fear told him that Yi Mo was no simple man. Even if it was a descendant of a big family, they would be worried and nervous seeing a lieutenant. Yi Mo only seemed to say hi after he talked about his father. Brother Yi said that the entire Flying Fox is no match for you. Du Dao wants to test that, the man who had been behind Elder Han this whole time said at this moment. Blasphemy, Du Dao, you're the instructor of the special ops. What are you fighting with Yi Mo for? Leave. Hearing Du Dao's words, Elder Han reproached immediately. Du Dao saw Elder Han say it so quickly, he backed down with a face of disappointment. Although he was the vice head of the police department in Beijing and one of the instructors for the special ops, he was still a member of Flying Snow. Yi Mo smiled and looked at Du Dao. You are also no match for me, there's no point in fighting you. He wouldn't be polite to this guy. And, he didn't want to keep a low profile in Beijing, he would teach those who needed a lesson. Du Dao was regretful that he couldn't teach this arrogant Yi Mo a lesson, and now that he was mocked, he was more furious. He immediately bowed to Elder Han. Head, please allow me to spar with Yi Mo, I'll control myself and won't hurt him. Originally, Han Zixin didn't want Du Dao to fight Yi Mo. Du Dao was an intermediate stage yellow-level martial artist. No matter how strong Yi Mo was, he would only be on the same level as Li Hu and not even reach into the ranks of martial artists. How could he be a match for Du Dao? However, he was really surprised that Yi Mo said such words. In that case, he really wanted to see how strong Yi Mo was. He nodded and said, "Okay, since you guys want to fight, then stop appropriately." Du Dao was his trusted man, and Yi Mo was a youth he liked and was Yi Beirong's grandson. If Yi Beirong knew he was very excellent, he would take Yi Mo back into the family. Plus, he contributed an inestimable military data. Although it was still being evaluated, Han Zixin knew that model was worth more than $30 million, and many of its worth were still unknown. This was one of the reasons why he took another look at Yi Mo and came over personally. Unexpectedly, Yi Mo still said, "I won't fight with you. My abilities are for killing. I'm not interested in playing with people. Although your leg martial arts are not bad, I've met someone who is 10 times better than you with legs, but he only managed 20 moves under my hand before I disabled his legs." Yi Mo talked without any concern. He could easily tell that Du Dao's martial arts was in his legs, but no matter how good they were, could they be better than Wu Qiong's? In Yi Mo's eyes, if Du Dao were to fight Wu Qiong, it wouldn't take 50 moves before Du Dao was a dead man. With Elder Han's permission, Du Dao was already rubbing his hands pumped to teach Yi Mo a lesson, but now he heard Yi Mo say that he disabled a person's legs in such a nonchalant tone, his face looked bad. At this moment, the young girl next to Elder Han noticed Yi Mo. She originally thought Yi Mo was ordinary, but why was he so arrogant? And did Yi Mo really see that all of Du Dao's prowess was in his legs? How did he see it? Yi Mo could see her powers, but she couldn't see a bit of Yi Mo's at all. Oh! Hearing Yi Mo's words, Elder Han was interested. He knew that Du Dao's leg arts was not bad. This Yi Mo could tell in one eye. Was there really not much difference between the two? Thinking that Yi Mo might not be much weaker than Du Dao, Elder Han's eyes were excited. He needed human resources the most now. Yi Mo was cold, and he seemed very generous and decisive, not to mention he was still so young. If he was as strong as Du Dao, then taking him into the special forces would mean. Thinking about this, Elder Han could no longer resist and immediately said, "Okay, then we'll bring out some winnings, I'll sponsor that. Whoever wins, I'll let him go into the Extreme Weapon Vault and choose a weapon." As soon as he heard Extreme Weapon Vault, Du Dao's eyes lit up. He once had a dagger from the vault, and that helped him through countless dangerous missions. However, he lost it in a mission in Tibet and felt regretful since then. If he could get a strong weapon from the vault, his power would up a level. Yi Mo was disinterested. What weapon could be stronger than the ones he made? He didn't care at all. If he had the material, he would have made a weapon for himself already. Seeing Yi Mo's lack of interest, Li Hu quickly said, "Brother Yi, don't underestimate the vault. It's all the top quality materials, some are made of materials you've never heard of. A major part of it is from the hidden sects." Hearing that they were from the hidden sects, Yi Mo was a little interested but not too excited. He said casually, "Don't they say the hidden sects things are hardly seen in the ordinary world? How could it be found in the Extreme Weapon Vault?" Li Hu smiled. "Brother Yi, you're not quite simple knowing about the hidden sects, but the weapons in the vault are not bought but traded with materials. Normally, the country would look for rare materials in all sorts of strange places. Then, these materials are given to the hidden sects which are used to trade for some special weapons." Hearing Li Hu's explanation, Yi Mo's eyes lit up. Wasn't he looking around for material? How complete would a country's collection be? His storage ring was still missing some material and couldn't be forged. If he could find some high-quality material, then it would be a gift from heaven. Thinking about this, Yi Mo walked in front of Elder Han and bowed once again. "Elder Han, I don't want the weapons in the vault, I would rather have a few pieces of material. What do you think? Elder Han heard Li Hu's words just then, and now that Yi Mo asked, he couldn't help but smile. The materials are used to trade for weapons. Of course it's fine if you want them, but you need to win first. If you can win against Du Dao, I'll let you choose 10. Yi Mo smiled. Okay, thank you. Du Dao was furious. Yi Mo didn't even take him seriously and sounded as though it was very easy to beat him. Chapter 146. No one can force me. Chapter 146. No one can force me. Seeing Du Dao, who was extremely angry, Yi Mo laughed to himself. Just by his attitude, he wouldn't get far in martial arts. What are you looking at? Come, make it quick. I need to go pick materials after this. Yi Mo looked at Du Dao and shook his head. In the cultivation realm, fighting someone whom one didn't know about could cause their life with the slightest mistake. Yi Mo could see Du Dao's power, and that was why he was so arrogant. However, Du Dao didn't know Yi Mo's power and felt he could surely beat Yi Mo. This was the real mistake. Hearing Yi Mo's words, Du Dao just charged up and attacked. However, Yi Mo acted as if he didn't see it at all and remained stationary. Judging by Du Dao's personality, he would use his legs straight up and try to beat him down using the shortest time, without using his fists at all. And, it was just as Yi Mo expected, Du Dao's fists were hollow attacks as he concentrated his power on his legs. Before Du Dao's fist reached, his right leg kicked like a straight line as if a whirlwind. Yi Mo nodded. Du Dao's legs were far cry from Wu Qiong, but his speed was nearing the latter's. Wu Qiong's legs were not only fast but also powerful. Even with Yi Mo's power, his legs felt pain after kicking Wu Qiong's leg 20 times. Du Dao's speed was just below Wu Qiong's, but his power and angel was a far cry from Wu Qiong. Moreover, Du Dao had this implausible idea. He wanted to kick Yi Mo with his left leg after his right leg connected. This, Yi Mo could tell from how the opponent charged power on his left leg. Yi Mo shook his head. He didn't know what Du Dao was thinking. If he could beat Yi Mo, he would only need his right leg, but he wanted to switch to left leg purely for aesthetics. This guy was really pretentious. He really overestimated himself, thinking that he could kick a guy, whom he had never fought before, flying. The woman beside Elder Han saw that Yi Mo didn't even move under Du Dao's hollow attack and immediately frowned. Of course, she could tell Du Dao's fists were hollow, but she didn't expect Yi Mo to see it as well. She wouldn't believe that Yi Mo didn't have time to react. And, not only did Yi Mo not move, he also looked at Du Dao's left leg and even shook his head. This woman immediately understood that Yi Mo could tell Du Dao's intentions. The act was pretty, but it was impractical, and it would only be effective on an opponent far weaker than him. As expected, Yi Mo slightly sidestepped and didn't even move his hand. However, he kicked his left leg towards Du Dao's leg a few times. Even that woman didn't see Yi Mo's movements clearly, and Yi Mo had already switched to his right leg before kicking Du Fei many meters away. Yi Mo attacked Du Dao the exact same way he did against Wu Qiong, but it was just easier. When Du Dao's leg collided with Yi Mo's, he rejoiced. He felt that the power on his leg wasn't something Yi Mo could handle. Just when he was prepared to hear Yi Mo cry out in pain and switch leg in mid-air to kick Yi Mo away beautifully, there was a piercing pain from his right leg, rendering him unable to kick with his left leg. Du Dao was shocked and immediately knew things weren't good. Just when he wanted to retreat, Yi Mo kicked his right leg onto his stomach. His head buzzed and couldn't believe that he was kicked flying. The position was exactly what he wanted to kick Yi Mo with. So fast, these were the only 2 words in his brain. He only lasted 5 moves and was kicked flying by Yi Mo. That woman saw that Yi Mo actually did what Du Dao wanted, cleanly and even more aesthetically pleasing than Du Dao's imagination. Her heart moved and had a strong urge to fight Yi Mo, but eventually, she suppressed this desire. Although she was sure she wouldn't lose to Yi Mo, she didn't want to expose her power in front of everyone. Du Dao fell to the ground and couldn't get up. However, Han Zixin was shocked. He clearly knew who Du Dao was, and even in the Flying Snow Squad, he wasn't average. Moreover, he was also a yellow-ranked master, but he couldn't even last a few moves in front of Yi Mo, Lu Gang and Li, who were also shocked. Li Hu knew Yi Mo was strong but didn't expect him to be this strong. Lu Gang was more shocked. He was still planning to battle Yi Mo too, but now that just seemed ridiculous. Not even 10 of him were a match for Du Dao, but Du Dao lost so completely in front of Yi Mo. Han Zixin also knew about martial arts and knew that if it was a life or death battle, Du Dao would die faster. No wonder the Song family couldn't do anything about Yi Mo so far. He was so strong. Where did he learn this from? Did he reach the black level of martial arts? Thinking about how Flying Snow Squad would be so much stronger if Yi Mo joined them, Han Zixin was lost in thought. No, he must have Yi Mo in his squad. Yi Mo didn't care about Du Dao he kicked flying, he only cared about how much materials he could get from the keep. He saw Elder Han seem to be lost in thought, so he could only walk over and say, "Elder Han." Han Zixin gasped for some air and felt Yi Mo was cuter and cuter. He really was someone special. Luckily, he suddenly thought of coming to see Yi Mo today, otherwise, where would he find someone valuable like Yi Mo? Only a descendant of ancient martial arts sects could match Yi Mo, but Yi Mo was obviously not from those sects. If he was, how would the Song family dare to look for trouble with him? How would the Yi family be willing to kick him out? Yi Mo, I really didn't expect you to be so strong. Good, good, good. Then, Han Zixin studied Yi Mo and looked at him as though he was studying some treasure. Yi Mo felt helpless and could only wait for Han Zixin to talk. At this moment, Du Dao had crawled up. Other than some pain on his leg, he was fine. He looked at Yi Mo with reverence from afar. He didn't expect Yi Mo to be so strong. This was the strongest opponent he had ever faced. Now, he believed Yi Mo's words. His power was for killing, not for playing. If Yi Mo wanted to kill him just then, even a few of him would have died. He originally thought he was not bad, now, it seemed he was still intolerably weak in front of the truly strong. And, Yi Mo had a lot of killing Kai. He said that he debilitated someone with a much strong leg martial arts than him, and now, it seemed to be true. Someone like Yi Mo didn't seem to be willing to lie about this. Thinking that if he pissed Yi Mo off and he could potentially debilitate his leg too, he felt helpless. He shivered at the thought. Yi Mo must not be offended. He heard Yi Mo offended the Song family but was still fine. That seemed to be true. However, it was not that the Song family didn't bother to deal with him, but they just didn't dare to. After Han Zixin repeated the words good, he stared at Yi Mo passionately and said, "Yi Mo, join Flying Snow Squad, you must join, you can be the instructor." Yi Mo shook his head. "Elder Han, I'm not interested in joining the army. I'm only interested in the materials in the keep. No, you must join Flying Snow Squad, if you don't, I won't let you choose the material." In a fit of worry, Han Zixin threatened Yi Mo with the material. Yi Mo smiled calmly. "In that case, Li Hu, I'll be leaving." Then, he turned and left as though Han Zixin was just air. Seeing that Yi Mo was leaving, Han Zixin was worried and quickly pulled Yi Mo's clothes. "Brother Yi, you mustn't leave. We can discuss about this, just look at the materials first. Then, we can talk, I beg you." Yi Mo, who was originally pissed off, saw Han Zixin's expression and couldn't really get angry, so he freed his clothes and said, "In that case, please send someone with me." No need, I'll go with you myself." Han Zixin felt he had grasped a bit of Yi Mo's personality and spoke quickly. Yi Mo wasn't hesitant in getting his material as he won that. Now that Han Zixin said this, he immediately said, "In that case, thank you, Elder Han, but if there's something I don't want to do, no one can force me, even the Heavenly Emperor." Yi Mo's last words weren't polite at all. Du Dao and Li, whose mouth spasmed but didn't argue. If it was before the fight, Du Dao would sneer at Yi Mo, but now, he felt he didn't have the right to. However, the woman beside Han Zixin frowned and seemed to want to say something but eventually didn't. Han Zixin knew his words before were unreasonable, so he wasn't angry at Yi Mo and instead said, "We can discuss about joining the squad later. Let's go see the material first. You're free to join if you want." Although he spoke like that, Han Zixin was thinking about how he could keep Yi Mo. It seemed he had pissed Yi Mo off a little. Yes, how could a master like him be willingly constrained? If he was really that easy to talk to, the Song family would have devoured him already. Chapter 147, Each having their own calculations. Chapter 147, Each having their own calculations other than the two guards, only that girl could accompany Han Zixin into the keep. Not even Du Dao could go in and had to wait outside. Even the two guards could only stand at the door and not go in. Whether it was the extreme weapon keep or the materials keep, it was heavily guarded. Yi Mo suspected that without Han Zixin's lead, it would be very troublesome even for him if he wanted to come in. Although he wasn't into high tech, it didn't mean he knew nothing. After all, he studied for so long at Ninghai University, so he knew even about laser passages. There was one in the long corridor leading to extreme weapon keep. Yi Mo knew that he didn't have a way to pass it now, unless he didn't touch the ground and the laser didn't activate. However, normal laser passages didn't need people to be on the ground. The motion sensor could activate the laser. Thinking about the rays of laser, Yi Mo felt stunned at heart too. No matter how strong he was, he couldn't stop the light rays, and he might even be cut into pieces, unless he had reached Foundation establishment, or had a strong defense artifact. It seemed that his power was still too weak and he underestimated the means of a country. Since they could have these passages, it also meant that there were similar weapons. Although it wouldn't be as strong as the one in the passage, it should be enough to threaten him. Han Zixin didn't know about this. In order to attract Yi Mo, he took him to the extreme weapons keep first because he thought Yi Mo would immediately be attracted after coming into the keep. However, what made Han Zixin surprised was that Yi Mo shook his head in disappointment after looking at the wide collection of weapons. He turned his head and asked, "Elder Han, didn't you say there were materials? Why are they all normal weapons?" Normal weapons? Han Zixin's mouth spasmed. The special ops working for him all felt glory for coming in here and picking a weapon. However, in Yi Mo's eyes, they were only normal. It could be said that each weapon here was worth much more than the 600k he acquired. However, his eyes weren't good enough to pick it up. Now that Yi Mo asked, he could only say, "Yes, it's the keep beside here." Then, Han Zixin took Yi Mo to the other storage keep. Yi Mo noticed that when Yi Mo said he didn't see any material, Han Zixin's expression was that his views were too low, but that woman frowned. Obviously, she didn't want Yi Mo to go in. When Yi Mo went in, he saw more materials. Although there was a lot of variety, most of them were useless to Yi Mo. Many metals and steel were unattractive to Yi Mo. Han Zixin thought that Yi Mo would look carefully at all these material and would take a long time. However, Yi Mo just walked straight to a few mining stones and held them. He didn't know that Yi Mo had spirit sense and could tell what things they were just by scanning them. Although most materials were useless to Yi Mo rejoiced at finding two each of the purple copper essence ore, silver sand ore and extreme wind stone. Moreover, he also found an extreme grade black jade. Yi Mo was very happy to have these 7 stones, but it was a pity that he didn't find any ores for making flying swords. Only found 7. You want, Sai, if we didn't ship away some 3 months ago, perhaps you would find more. Seeing Yi Mo only being interested in 7, Han Zixin was disappointed. It seemed these materials keep couldn't attract him either. This time, Yi Mo was speechless. He was very satisfied to find 4 ores he needed on Earth. This was too rare. At least he could make a defense artifact for his sister, and he could make his storage ring. He didn't expect all these to be leftovers. "Elder Han, how often do you give things to the hidden sects?" Yi Mo couldn't resist to ask. Han Zixin laughed. "It seems Li who told you, but these aren't secrets anyways. We usually give things to them annually. Our condition is that not only are they to help us, Grandpa." The girl beside Han Zixin spoke for the first time. Her voice was very crisp. Yi Mo didn't think that this girl was Han Zixin's granddaughter. She was not a simple person. Han Zixin smiled. Yi Mo is not an outsider, plus, this isn't something that can't be told. Perhaps, Yi Mo would soon be on our side. Yi Mo knew that Elder Han still hadn't given up on making him join the Flying Snow Squad. Although he didn't want to, but he didn't want to give up these materials. If he could pick some each year, then it would solve a large problem for him. Perhaps he could finish gathering the materials needed for Flying Sword. Thinking about this, Yi Mo said, Elder Han, actually, I'm also decent at making weapons. I can use some weapons to trade materials with you. What do you think? Han Zixin smiled and said, Yi Mo, you don't know the perks of the weapons from the hidden sects, that's why you say that. If you knew the worth of the weapons in the Extreme Weapons Vault, then you wouldn't say this. But if you want materials, that's easy. Just join Flying Snow Squad and I can let you pick 10 each year. Yi Mo was moved but didn't talk. Instead, that young girl said once again, Grandpa, this way. Yang, only 10, it's fine. And before we trade things, I can still decide what to do with you. You just need to not tell them, Han Zixin immediately said. The girl hesitated and eventually didn't say anything. From these words, Yi Mo already understood that this girl should be from the hidden sects and was Elder Han's granddaughter. However, 10 each year should be enough for him. Plus, they might not even gather 10 he needed each year. However, he didn't want to join Flying Snow Squad. It was too restricting and a waste of time. However, Yi Mo knew it was impossible for him to get these things for free. As though seeing Yi Mo's hesitation, Han Zixin immediately said, You just need to be the instructor and you can move freely. You just need to help Flying Snow Squad do one thing each year. Yi Mo hesitated and said, I can be the instructor, but I will only be teaching for 3 days each year and do one thing for Flying Snow Squad once every 2 years. And, you must not use any reason to confine me, otherwise I wouldn't accept it. Okay, deal. Han Zixin revealed the smile of a cunning fox. He originally wanted to use Extreme Weapons Vault to keep Yi Mo since it was the same as using materials. As long as Yi Mo joined Flying Snow Squad, things would become easier. Yi Mo knew this was Han Zixin's trap, but he had to jump in. He needed to cultivate it and didn't have much time to search for ores and spirit grass. How powerful was the workforce of a country? No matter how Yi Mo searched, he could not compare with the power of a country. Plus, there was no harm for him. He wouldn't waste too much time being an instructor. After leaving the vault, he went to eat with Elder Han. It was already in the afternoon, and his documents were ready. It was a small blue booklet with his photo attached. It said Yi Mo was the instructor for Special Ops Force Flying Snow Squad, and he also had a Bureau of Chinese Special Forces stamp. Yi Mo felt this little booklet wasn't completely useless. Perhaps it would be useful in the future. They also brought with him a gun and a mobile phone. Yi Mo took it, thinking about how he just bought a phone yesterday and now he got a new one. He shouldn't have bought it if he knew. Then, he went to the training base for Flying Snow Squad and gave some instruction. Seeing the sky was dark, Yi Mo was scared his sister would be worried and was prepared to go to Hua Qing University. However, after the captain of the squad Zhong Ju fought with Yi Mo, he was astonished and dragged Yi Mo to go to the party of the Beijing elites. Yi Mo was completely uninterested in such an event but couldn't reject Zhong Ju and the others' strong request. After all, he was still the instructor. Moreover, Yi Mo was scared that his sister didn't want to leave Beijing. If she stayed and he didn't, it would be beneficial for her if he knew a few people in Beijing. After all, those who could come were either rich or powerful. Normal people couldn't come. For Yi Ling, last night was the best night of her life. Not only was her birthday smooth, she wasn't scared and knew that Yi Mo wasn't impotent. She felt grateful to Tian He for testing Yi Mo's manhood. More importantly, Yi Mo said the Song family wouldn't come and they didn't. She was fine the next day when she woke up. Being from a large powerful family, Yi Ling knew that since Yi Mo didn't kill Song Xiaochen and the Song family didn't come, it meant that they wouldn't. Despite not knowing why the Song family was so fearful of Yi Mo, she still felt proud of him. Only she knew that Yi Mo didn't rely on the Yi family at all. He relied only on himself. Yi Ling was all too clear on what sort of family was the Song family, so how could she not be proud of such a brother? Yi Ling was prepared to go meet with Yi Mo and Yi Zifeng and then invite her friends in her dorm out for a good meal. So as soon as she got up and couldn't reach Yi Zifeng's phone, she rushed home quickly. As soon as she entered, she felt the atmosphere wasn't right. Chapter 148, Yi Ling's Problem. Chapter 148, Yi Ling's Problem. Quan Yi, how come I can't reach my brother? Is he at home? Yi Ling thought he couldn't reach Yi Zifeng last night because he shut down his mobile, but she still couldn't reach him this morning. She knew that Yi Zifeng rarely went back after her father passed away 2 years ago and usually stayed at the Yi family mansion. Of course, it was partly due to Grandpa liking him, but she didn't know what Yi Zifeng was thinking. Yi Ling rarely went back to a home that was empty and stayed most of the time at school. Occasionally, she would go back to live a few days at the Yi family mansion. However, she needed to steal things, so she had been here more frequently. Although Yi Zifeng rarely went back, his phone was always on, but today, his phone was still off. This rarely happened, so the first thing Yi Ling did when she came to the Yi family mansion was to ask for Yi Zifeng's whereabouts. Quan Yi was the caretaker of the Yi family mansion. Yi Ling needed to be going in and out of the mansion, so she intentionally got close to Quan Yi. But today, Quan Yi saw Yi Ling's face and her face quickly changed. She didn't answer Yi Ling's questions and walked away with her head down hurriedly. "Yi Ling, you still dare to come back? Get inside," a vulgar voice sounded. Before Yi Ling could react, a huge hand grabbed Yi Ling by the neck and easily dragged her in. The room was full of people. Not only were the main people in the Yi family there, even the women who weren't allowed in meetings were there too. It seemed that these people were already waiting for her. If she didn't come back herself, perhaps she would be apprehended. She looked at her grandpa sitting at the top and her heart sunk. Many years ago, her second auntie interfered with her second uncle's business and was punished so severely. The things she did now were countless times more severe than what her second aunt did. No matter how much her grandpa liked her, she couldn't escape the consequences today. Yi Ling found that she looked through the entire house and almost everyone was here other than Yi Zifeng. Where did Yi Zifeng go? Yi Ling suddenly worried as her heart skipped a beat. Could Yi Zifeng be punished due to her? She forgot that she should be worried about herself, not Yi Zifeng. Yi Beirong looked at Yi Ling once and the disappointment was clear in his eyes. He didn't say anything. His health had been good, so he could survive for another 8 or 10 years. Because he liked Yi Wentian, he wanted to wait for another 10 years after Yi Zifeng was mature to see if he could give the leader position to Yi Zifeng. Out of the brothers, Yi Wenqi was too calculative and didn't have a broad view. He could only be calculative in small things. As for Yi Wenjin, he was more of an imbecile. However, Yi Zifeng was quite like his father, and this was the reason Yi Beirong didn't give the leader position to Yi Wenqi. Last time, he even tried to let Yi Zifeng enter the family meeting. Although his words weren't allowed, his performance was well. He thought of everything but just didn't expect Yi Ling to do something so treacherous. She actually stole 2 of the Feng Shui Dragon Balls and gave it to their opponent, the Song family. If Yi Beirong could let this go easily, then there would be no point for the existence of the Yi family. Yi Beirong scanned the tens of people below and remained silent for a while before saying, "There are 2 things I want to announce in this meeting. The first thing is, from today, the leader of the family will be Yi Wenqi. 3 days later, we will do the exchange. The second thing is Yi Ling's treacherous acts will be dealt with by Yi Wenqi." Then, Yi Beirong stood up from the leader chair and sighed. He didn't sit on another chair and instead walked out of the room. Yi Ling's heart was cold. It seemed her grandpa wouldn't let her go. If her grandpa punished her, she would still have some chance, but if it was her big uncle, then she wouldn't even know what would wait for her. Plus, her grandpa wasn't here. Yi Ling suddenly looked at Yi Lu, who was behind her 4th uncle, and was immediately shocked. She was caught, but why was Yi Lu fine? Yi Lu did more things than her but just didn't steal the Dragon Balls. Plus, it was Yi Lu who introduced her to Jiyu Luo. And, Jiyu Luo said Yi Lu was working for him from a long time ago. Since the Yi family could find out she stole the Dragon Balls, how could they not know what Yi Lu did? Yi Ling's heart couldn't help but to sink. She had experienced some things and was no longer the naive child she once was. She thought about her suspicion about her father's death as well as the things she did. Could her big uncle not tell she was intentionally getting close to them? They took this long to know she stole the Dragon Balls? And was sure she took it? Did her big uncle's men not care all this time she'd been inside the mansion? Yi Ling suddenly thought of a scary truth. It was that right from the beginning, her big uncle and 4th uncle knew what she was doing, but they just let her be. She was in trouble, but Yi Lu was free instead, so perhaps they purposely got Yi Lu to get close to her. Yi Ling was shivering at her thought. Why did her big uncle do this? What good was there for him? Was it just to kill her and her brother? The more she thought, the more she felt the chances were high. How old was she? She hadn't even graduated. Her big uncle and them were cunning, she could only lose in a wisdom battle with them. Her brother Yi Mo was kicked out by them because of his bodily issues. Yi Ling couldn't understand why her big uncle and fourth uncle would do this and try to eradicate their line. But everything else, Yi Ling understood. If Yi Ling knew that Grandpa was planning for Yi Zifeng to be the leader of the family 10 years later, she would understand. Zhongju was not as famous in Beijing as Du Dao. When Yi Mo, Zhongju, Du Dao and Li Hu walked in, most people only greeted Du Dao since he was the vice head of the National Security Bureau. However, Du Dao wasn't feeling full of himself at all because only he understood that other than Li Hu, Yi Mo and Zhongju's identity were higher than his. Zhongju didn't like this sort of scene, but he didn't really understand Yi Mo's personality and that's why he pulled him here. Brother Zhong, your arrival really surprised me. A youth not yet in his 30s arrived. It seemed that not everyone didn't recognize Zhongju. This youth speaking obviously knew Zhongju and his identity. Zhongju smiled and turned to Yi Mo and said, "This is the young master of the Li family, Li Qiuyang, he's quite famous in Beijing, haha." Li Qiuyang looked curiously at Yi Mo. He knew Du Dao was still a subordinate of Zhongju. What Li Qiuyang didn't expect was that Zhongju actually introduced him to the youth beside him whom he didn't know. This youth dressed very ordinarily, or he was perhaps even poorly dressed. Who was this person? When Zhongju introduced him, he was obviously very respectful. Other than that old man Han Zixin, who else could let Zhongju be so respectful to? And Du Dao and Zhongju were both half a step behind him. Although there was just that slight distance, it was enough for Li Qiuyang to judge Yi Mo's status. He had understood that Yi Mo was no ordinary person and had a higher status than Zhongju at least. Li Qiuyang's heart moved. He wouldn't judge by appearances and quickly walked up to Yi Mo and extended his hand. "I'm Li Qiuyang, Zhongju's loyal supporter and his friend." Yi Mo smiled and shook hands with him. "I'm Yi Mo, I just got to know Zhongju today." Li Qiuyang's mouth spasmed. He was all too clear on Zhongju's arrogance. He would never believe Zhongju would be so respectful to someone whom he just met, but Yi Mo didn't seem to be lying. Yi Mo, this name seemed to be familiar, the same name as the trash who was kicked out of the Yi family. "Haha, let's not stand here. Mr. Ji Beichen, who just came back from Taiwan, will hold a charity auction. Then, there will be a ball. Let's sit down and have a chat. Later at the auction, you can see if you have anything you want." Ji Beichen is a famous antiques collector. It's said he prepares a lot of good things whenever he comes back. Li Qiuyang smiled and said, "Okay, I've heard of Ji Beichen's name for a long time. Although I don't have much money, I still want to see his collection." Zhongju immediately agreed. Sorry, a person suddenly bumped into Yi Mo and apologized right away. However, when the person looked at Yi Mo, that person voiced out, "Hey, it's you." Yi Mo saw that he had actually seen the person who bumped into him before. She was the Tan Fei who was going to give him an album when he got off the plane yesterday. He didn't expect to see her at this upper-class social night, but since she was that famous, she did seem to have the ability to come. "Fei Fei, after tonight's auction, there's a ball, I'll dance with you later." A young man followed closely. Tan Fei no longer had the mood to think how someone as poor as Yi Mo could come in here and turned to look at the man and said, "Sorry, young Master Yi, my leg is injured." Chapter 149, Too Freaking Awesome. Chapter 149, Too Freaking Awesome. Yi Mo scanned with his spirit sense. Tan Fei's leg was fine. It seemed that she just wanted to reject this young Master Yi and couldn't help but to smile, thinking that women could always find an excuse. However, his smile was caught by the young Master Yi. A person dressing so poorly dared to laugh at him, and it was obviously because Tan Fei rejected him. "What are you laughing at? You bumped into Fei Fei and hurt her leg. If you laugh again, I'll tear your mouth." This youth saw Yi Mo's smile and was angered by embarrassment. Hearing these words, Zhongju's face sunk but didn't rage. This young Master Yi in front of him was from the Song family and was the son of Song Chifeng, someone who had great power. He was also in the Shao generation. However, because a feng shui master said that he would be able to achieve something great once he took the Shao away from his name, he changed it Song Yi. Although he wasn't afraid of Song Yi, but getting on bad terms with Song Yi was the same as getting on bad terms with the Song family. Li Qiuyang's mouth smiled. He just got to know Yi Mo, so of course, he wouldn't stand up for him. Moreover, Song Yi's status was no lower than his, perhaps even a little higher. Although his Li family was one of the 5 great families of Beijing, there were too many people in the Li family, and he was only a decent member. He was still a little low compared to a core member such as Song Yi. Yi Mo frowned. Who was this young Master Yi? He was so cocky. However, Tan Fei had reacted and quickly said, "This isn't his fault, I accidentally bumped into him. Fei, just stand aside and dance with me later. If I say it's his fault, it is his fault." Then, Song Yi walked up with cruelty. Zhongju finally couldn't resist anymore and was going to argue with Song Yi, but Yi Mo stopped him. "You're called Song Yi? From the Song family?" Yi Mo looked at Song Yi and coldly said, "It's too late to know I'm from the Song family. Qiuyang, this guy's not related to you, right? Don't blame me for not considering you." Song Yi casually looked at Li Qiuyang. Slap. 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 Before Song Yi even finished his words, Yi Mo had slapped him 4 times on the face already. Song Yi was slapped meters away and crumbled to the ground. Teeth flew out as his mouth was covered in blood. After the initial shock, he immediately pointed his finger at Yi Mo crazily and stammeringly said, "You don't want to live, you dare to hit me." Everyone around was shocked. Song Yi's identity, who didn't know? This poor-looking youth dared to break so many of his teeth and bruise his face. Li Qiuyang was shocked. Although he knew that Yi Mo's status was quite high, but who dared to easily beat up Song Yi like this? Of course, it was only unless he didn't know who Song Yi was. Tan Fei was shocked and was at a loss for words. She could only think that it was over. If she knew this would happen, she should have danced with Song Yi, but now, people may die. Although Zhongju was shocked, he was still calm. Although the Song family was powerful, he was the captain of Flying Snow Squad, so he didn't need to be afraid of them. At this moment, Yi Mo slowly said, "So what if I beat up people from the Song family?" Then, he walked up and kicked Song Yi on the leg, making a cracking sound. He actually broke Song Yi's leg in front of so many people after knowing who Song Yi was. Everyone around him looked at him as though he was crazy. Song Yi didn't faint from the pain, but almost fainted due to anger. At this moment, 2 men quickly rushed in front of Song Yi and wiped the blood from his mouth. One of the men stared coldly at Yi Mo. "You're very bold, I hope you will still be so calm and bold later." Then, he picked up the phone. Yi Mo laughed. "Even if Song Chiming is standing in front of my face, I'm still so calm." "You are Yi Mo?" At this moment, the other person from the Song family finally recognized Yi Mo and his face immediately changed. "Yi Mo." The other man calling repeated this name and actually put down the phone. Yi Mo sneered. "Good, your dog eyes aren't blind. I was just trying to find a reason to go to the Song family, but I didn't expect the wild seeds of Song family to come to me. In that case, don't blame me." The people around were dumbfounded to hear such insults in the face of the Song family, but people were more shocked afterwards. When Song Yi heard the person in front was Yi Mo, his eyes were full of fear. He didn't even care about the pain on his leg. He sat up and said to Yi Mo, "Young Master Mo, sorry, I didn't know it was you. Go, let's go." The 2 men who were going to look for trouble with Yi Mo weren't surprised at all at Song Yi's apology after knowing that it was Yi Mo. After Song Yi apologized, they carried Song Yi and turned to leave. They didn't leave any tough words behind and didn't even continue the call. Zhongju's eyes showed contemplation, but soon he understood. Yi Mo must have came from the hidden sects, otherwise, Song Yi wouldn't be so cowardly. Only Du Dao guessed something. He guessed that the Song family was scared Yi Mo would go on a rampage at the Song family, disregarding the consequences. The most shocked were the people around. They were all guessing who Yi Mo was. He beat Song Yi like that, but Song Yi still had to apologize. That was too freaking awesome. Tan Fei looked at Yi Mo in disbelief. Yi Mo was still dressed like before. Although he looked clean, but the clothes on him wouldn't be worth more than 200. His pocket seemed very full and he looked very poor. However, just who was he? Who was Song Yi? He was the young master of the Song family. His reputation was no better than Song Shoan before. Tan Fei knew that quite well, and even if she wanted to find someone to protect her, there was no one who would not fear Song Yi. But this young man in front her beat up Song Yi, and Song Yi still had to apologize. The way Tan Fei looked at Yi Mo also became more respectful. Although she was a popular songstress, she was nothing in front of these big family young masters. Brother Yi, this way please. Would you be interested in antiques? If you are, tonight, Mr. Ji Beicheng won't disappoint you. Li Qiuyang didn't mention what happened just then at all, but the hospitality on his face was more vivid. He was thinking who Yi Mo was, but he knew now was not the time to ask. Tan Fei looked at Yi Mo with complicated and apologetic eyes. Yi Mo, thank you for just then, I'm really sorry. I'm Tan Fei, will I have the honor of knowing you? It's nothing big, don't worry. And I have problems with the Song family. Even if they don't come for me, I will go for them. I'm Yi Mo, we already know each other anyways, so no need for that formality. Yi Mo waved his hand and said. If he really did see someone from the Song family, he would definitely go look for trouble. He wanted to know what Song Chiming's bottom line was. Fei Fei, I've been looking for you a long time. Another sweet-looking girl walked over and grabbed Tan Fei's hand. Come, Xiao Yu and Aunt Yun are here. Then, this girl didn't even give Tan Fei the chance to reply and dragged her away. Tan Fei turned around and gave Yi Mo another apologetic smile. If you have time, I wish to invite you to dinner. Yi Mo didn't have his attention on Tan Fei at the moment and was listening to the conversation between the two men in the distance. They would have never thought that Yi Mo could still hear their words at such distance. Did you see? That person who beat up Song Yi is called Yi Mo. Could he be that Yi Mo from the Yi family? No way, Yi family's Yi Mo is a garbage. How can he be here and teach Song Yi a lesson? By the way, no one from the Yi family seemed to be here tonight. There's definitely no one from the Yi family out tonight. What? You know why? I asked out Yi Ling last night. She said that there was something in his family today and couldn't come out. For a big family like theirs, even someone like Yi Ling wouldn't come out. That must mean something big is happening. Not necessarily. How could a family as big as the Yi family have big problems? But these things aren't something that we can care about. Did you see Tan Fei just then? She's indeed pretty. No wonder Song Yi was interested. The auction is about to start. Mr. Ji Beichen is here. Someone called out and interrupted Yi Mo's focus. Yi Mo, however, felt this unknown uneasiness in his heart. He frowned and immediately realized it was because he heard those words and thought about Yi Ling. He hadn't seen Yi Ling this entire day. She must be worried after putting their arrangement on hold for so long. Thinking about this, Yi Mo could no longer stay and immediately said, I have something urgent, I need to go, we'll talk next time. Zhongju didn't stop Yi Mo this time because Yi Mo just beat Song Yi very hard. Even if he was from the ancient martial arts sects, he needed to make some arrangements in case the Song family ambushes him. He, Du Dao, Li Hu, Li Qiuyang and some other people went with him to the door. Yo Mo took a train to Hua University. He didn't wait outside the female dorms this time and went to Yi Ling's dorm with invisibility. Yi Mo's spirit sense saw that Yi Ling wasn't inside but he still knocked. The person who opened the door was Tian He. When she saw it was Yi Mo, her face was full of joy, but when she thought about what happened last night, her face blushed a little. Yi Ling is not here. Do you know where she went? Yi Mo wasn't in the mood to think about other things and just asked for Yi Ling's whereabouts. Chapter 150, Yi Mo's Fury. Chapter 150, Yi Mo's Fury. You are Yi Ling's boyfriend, so isn't she living with you? And how did you get in? Lu Li also came to the door. Yeah, Yi Ling left in the morning and hasn't been back. We thought you guys were enjoying your private time that you forgot about inviting us to dinner, Tian He said. Yi Mo suddenly had a bad feeling and urgently asked, which one of you have Yi Ling's number? Yi Ling's boyfriend didn't have her number. Although they were speechless, but seeing Yi Mo's desperate expression, Tian He still gave it to him. Thanks. Yi Mo got Yi Ling's number, then he said one word and disappeared. He runs really fast. Did he have an argument with Yi Ling? Dan Dan walked up and inquired. Tian He shook her head. I don't think so. Look at how worried Yi Ling was for him. How could she bear to argue with such a handsome boyfriend? If I have such a boyfriend, I would do anything he asks. There's no way I would argue with him. Okay, Tian He, I'm sure you're not a virgin anymore. Tell me the truth, who slept with you? Dan Dan giggled and said. Tian He sighed. Sigh, I also don't want it, but I can't find someone like Yi Ling's boyfriend. If there is, I'm willing to chase him. PFT. Yi Ling just said last night that guy was her brother. Dan Dan had a face of disbelief. Yeah, but you need to make me believe it. If I have a boyfriend I love, I'll also call him brother. Is that not okay? Tian He said. Yi Mo called Yi Ling as soon as he got her number, but it said her phone was unavailable. Yi Ling knew he was at Beijing and even wanted to ask Yi Ziffing out today. There was no way her phone would be shut. Her dorm mate said she was out in the morning, so how could there be no news of her till now? And even her phone was shut. Did something happen? The first thing Yi Mo thought of was those two people saying something happened at the Yi family. Did something happen to Yi Ling? Although Yi Mo wasn't too sure of those *T family laws, but he still knew a bit. If people knew that Yi Ling stole the Dragon Balls, then there was no way she could escape. Thinking about Yi Ling, Yi Mo's heart was burning with worry. He even regretted staying in the training base for the whole day. He should have taken the money and left in the morning. Yi Mo called a taxi and made the taxi go to the Yi family mansion as fast as he could. At the door, the driver stopped because cars were not allowed ahead. Yi Mo got off and with an invisibility magic, he darted like a hurricane through the long shady road into the mansion. All of these only took half a minute for Yi Mo, even a car would take a minute for this. There were still 2 guards at the door. If he didn't see Yi Ling's situation, he would go in with the invisibility magic, but at the door of the inner front yard, he had already scanned Yi Ling's state. His spirit sense could reach nearly 80 meters now. The moment he saw Yi Ling, his fury erupted. Yi Ling's head sagged down with her hair in a mess and was hung up at the corner of the yard inside a mosque. Her body was blooded, it was obviously whiplashes, and what was left to cover her were tattered clothes. In just a day's time, she was tortured to this state. Bam! Yi Mo kicked the door flying many meters away. Before the 2 guards could react, they were already killed spitting blood on the ground. Yi Mo went into the mosque with his fastest speed and cut off the rope with a wind blade. Yi Ling dropped into his arms. Yi Mo felt some relief as she hadn't died yet but just fainted. It was probably because she hadn't eaten at all and was beaten heavily. If he came an hour or 2 late, it would be very hard to say if she would still be alive. Yi Mo's cultivation Kai started running as he immediately inserted it into Yi Ling's body. Yi Ling had received internal injuries, but under Yi Mo's treatment, her injuries gradually disappeared. After 10 more minutes, she woke up and looked at the person in front of her. It was actually Yi Mo. She was shocked and immediately asked, "Brother, why did you come? This has nothing to do with you. Why did they capture you?" Yi Mo affectionately wiped the blood from Yi Ling's head and said, "Sorry, Yi Ling, I came late. I will take you and leave later, but I will first avenge you. I'll wash you first. Close your eyes." Yi Ling moaned and found that there was not a single part of her clothes or skin that was all right. Yi Mo was her brother and she didn't think otherwise. She just felt there was a warm sense in her body that prevented her from feeling pain and instead made her comfortable. She didn't know why Yi Mo was cleaning her up. Although she was his sister and her clothes were just tattered, she was still embarrassed. Yi Mo looked at the lashes on her body. There were bruises everywhere, and a fit of fury burned inside him. He used a few water ball magic and cleaned Yi Ling. At the same time, with his Kai, those scars and bruises quickly disappeared. 10 minutes later, there was already a ruckus outside. Yi Mo then took off his shirt and put it on Yi Ling. Yi Ling opened her eyes and looked at her wounds. They had actually disappeared. She looked at Yi Mo in shock. "Brother, what medicine did you use? How come I don't feel any pain at all? and there are no marks on my body anymore. It's really magical, but I'm a little hungry. Yi Mo caressed Yi Ling's hair. Your brother is a doctor and has opened up a clinic. This time, leave Beijing with me, okay? Yi Ling obediently nodded. At this moment, she felt calm and happy in her brother's arms without a single bit of worry. A faint serenity made her feel comfortable. If she could stay with her brother, she would never stay in this horrific Yi family again. She just didn't know what was happening to Yi Zifeng. Brother, you took off your clothes and gave it to me, what about you? I didn't think you would have such a sturdy build when you look so feeble and scholarly. Yi Ling subconsciously touched Yi Mo's sturdy arms and complimented. Just when Yi Mo wanted to say something, there was more and more people outside. It seemed that the Yi family people had come. Yi Mo had already scanned 20 to 30 armed guards. Yi Ling, however, didn't notice them yet. She suddenly reached her hand into one of Yi Mo's pockets and said once again, Brother, why do you have so many stones on you? There are some in your pants pocket too? Yi Mo just gave his top to Yi Ling, and she was still in his arms now, so she casually felt the oars in the pockets of his pants. We'll talk about this later. Yi Mo took down the rope that tied Yi Ling before and made Yi Ling get on his back before tying her once again. After which, he kicked on the mosque's door. The sturdy door was kicked into pieces. Without any report from the outer yard, someone reached the inner yard and kicked 2 guards to death. Of course, Yi Beirong knew of such major thing, but what made him more angry was that as soon as he came, he saw Yi Mo break the mosque door. Not only was he angry at the guard's uselessness, but he was also angry at Yi Mo for breaking the big door. Capture him immediately and bring him inside, the rest of you should leave immediately. All of the Yi family members come to the meeting lounge immediately. Yi Beirong almost ordered to kill Yi Mo and Yi Ling under such rage, but he still had his senses. Someone who was so cocky in the Yi family mansion must be killed, but before they lose their lives, he still needed to ask some things. As such, he immediately held a meeting. In his eyes, it wouldn't take long at all for all these people to capture a youth with Yi Ling on his back. He didn't need to worry at all. He had only seen Yi Mo a few times, and now, Yi Mo changed a lot so he didn't recognize him. Yi Mo sneered. He dared to charge into Sai-Na Peninsula and face the Nanqing army numbering thousands, so how could he worry about 20 to 30 guards? Yi Ling was already worried. She wanted Yi Mo to leave first, but she knew that with so many people surrounding them, it was impractical for Yi Mo to escape. She could only sigh while thinking about their current situation. If she was going to die, she might as well die with Yi Mo. However, the following scene almost made her doubt her eyes. Yi Mo almost flew and charged into those 20 guards. Yi Ling could only see shadows of Yi Mo's fists and kicks as a fit thuds echoed out. Yi Ling didn't think that Yi Mo would actually be so strong. He was carrying her, yet he still easily beat up 20 to 30 guards. Thinking about how he helped her heal so fast and that warm feeling in her body, no matter how dumb she was, she knew that Yi Mo was no longer the Yi Mo she knew. She thought about last night. Yi Mo easily killed people and took her away from that entertainment place. Until now, the Song family still didn't dare to hunt them. Now, it seemed that the Song family knew her brother was strong and didn't dare to come. She didn't think Yi Mo would become this strong. This wasn't something she could imagine. Her brother was so excellent, but that Ning Qingxue still dared to revoke the marriage. She must be blind. If Yi Mo wasn't her biological brother, then perhaps even she would fall in love with him. Thinking about this, Yi Ling cursed herself for thinking too much, but it really felt comfortable on her brother's back. Perhaps she was too tired and gradually fell asleep. You are very strong, but even so, don't think about leaving this mansion today. A plain voice sounded after Yi Mo beat up tens of people. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.